I'm Carol Ann Ford. I played Susan in Doctor Who. And I've been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast, and it's absolutely amazing. So, goodbye everybody, and it's been fun talking to you.
The tangents this week continue all the way to episode 145 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Winning! Is that what you think it's about? I'm not trying to win. I'm not doing this because I want to beat someone, because I hate someone, or because I want to blame someone. It's not because it's fun. God knows it's not because it's easy. It's not even because it works, because it hardly ever does. I do what I do because it's right, because it's decent, and above all, it's kind. It's just that. Just kind. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like we do every week. We'll go on the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello.
Hello.
I'm so glad I didn't butcher that completely.
That was a really good part of the whole episode.
Yes.
But we'll get to that for sure.
Yeah.
I may be wrong not having tissues handy, but we'll see. All right. Well, let's jump straight into the news with convention announcements. So Starbase Indy, which is the Indianapolis area local Star Trek convention, which has been around for eons. We had their con chair on a couple of years ago, actually. They made their first guest announcement, Denise Crosby from Star Trek Next Gen, Tasha Yar. So that's exciting. And of course, they're one of the Thanksgiving weekend convention staples. You got Chicago TARDIS, and the same weekend here in Indy is Starbase Indy. So,
you have your pick.
You have your pick. Surprisingly enough, I was at that hotel over the weekend, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So. And then, speaking of Chicago TARDIS and Doctor Who and all that, Gallifrey 1 has done another big block of guest announcements, including Wendy Padbury, who played Zoe, which apparently this year, or I guess it's coming up for Gallifrey Run, she'll be celebrating her 50th anniversary of being involved with Doctor Who.
Cool.
So it's been 50 years since, I guess, we met Zoe.
That's exciting.
Yeah. And then other guests include Rona Munro, who just is coming off of writing an episode in this most recent season. She was the classic era writer that they brought in. She wrote Survival, and then season 10 she wrote The Eaters of Light.
Which, spoilers, was actually quite an enjoyable episode, but again, we'll get to that.
There'll be 7th Doctor era music arranger and title theme composer Kath McCulloch.
Or McCullough.
McCullough. You never know with those UK
I've heard it
names,
pronounced 2 different ways.
Yes. Apparently, even after listening to the guys and tricks, I still in my head want to call him Derek Jacobi.
Yeah, that whole thing, I was like...
That really threw me off. I'm like, no, it's Jacobi.
That messed up my mind palace, sure.
Yeah.
I was like, what do I call it?
Yeah. Doctor Who novel and audio writer Jenny Colgan. Last producer and former editor Derek Ritchie. Writer Robert Sherman. And Big Finish audio scriptwriter and actor John Dorney, and Doctor Who brand manager Edward Russell. So
cool.
So that's it for convention announcements.
That's quite the list of people. I mean, not just
actors. Well,
it's mostly writers and things like that, but there's some really
top-notch ones.
Yeah. Gallifrey
definitely.
does that
Robert
quite a
Shearman
bit.
wrote Dalek,
which
is
that's one.
And he also wrote Jubilee, which is a big British audio, and then Dalek was obviously the return of the Daleks in the New Who.
Yep. Let's see. Next, we got some new trailers, movie and TV trailers. We got our first look at Jumanji. Welcome to which. After seeing the trailer, I feel much better.
Yes,
because it's not a complete rehash, which I thought it was going to be. It's like, no, they're taking the idea of Jumanji being a game of some sort that comes to life. I'm doing air quotes here, and you're forced to play it or die, but that's about it. It's as bad as the name's called. Yeah, the game's called Jumanji. But other than that, it's pretty different, which is good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and see, this is the thing is, I think it dropped on Friday or Saturday. I can't remember exactly which.
It was like Thursday, because I was at work.
Thursday, yeah.
Okay, because I couldn't remember if I was working or not. Yeah. And I saw a lot of people just kind of be like, oh, this looks terrible, whatever. So I was like, oh, I don't want to watch the trailer just yet. Plus, I was in the middle of things. Then I finally watched it. I'm like, okay, this could go one of two ways. And I had just watched Black Nerd Comedy's video about Captain Underpants, which is, but I'm like, this could go one of two ways. It could be really, really horrible, or it could be like Andre's review of Captain Underpants is because he was pleasantly surprised how much he enjoyed that movie because he thought it was going to be, a stupid, toilet humor kid movie, but then, he had such low expectations. He went in and he was like, oh, it's actually kind of good and sort of a thing. So it's like, it could be something like that, really. So I'm willing to give Jumanji a fair shake, maybe not like on opening weekend, but like at the Dollar Theater or something. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's got The Rock and it's got Karen Gillan, and so it's might be interesting. Who knows?
I don't think it looks terrible. I think it looks like it could be kind of funny, actually. So. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah. We also got, finally, a trailer for Marvel's Inhumans, and funnily enough, it's not the leaked trailer that I saw a couple weeks ago. So, I don't know if that trailer technically was not complete. There were special effects and stuff missing. But I guess maybe because it got leaked, they're like, oh, well, let's just make a whole new one for when it officially gets released. I don't know. Either way.
Or maybe the leaked one was a decoy.
Maybe, I don't know. So, but either way, yeah, I'm going to try to remain neutral on this until I actually see it. That's about it. So, I don't know anything really about the Inhumans other than what we've learned on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I don't know as far as like how the characters look and how they act, if that's accurate to the source material. The giant dog Lockjaw looks really cool.
Yeah,
I will get that.
I watched the trailer with Jared, and he's been, in the past he's been a big Marvel Comics fanboy, but in recent years he hasn't been quite so much. But that's another story. And yeah, the part that he was most excited about was Lockjaw. He was like, oh my gosh, they got Lockjaw in this thing? So he was, and I was like, I don't know who that is, but you're excited about it, so sure. But I think that was the only part that he was like, really, he's like, this could go either way. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, I'm not getting excited, really. And usually I get excited about Marvel everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just, I can't place full judgment on the trailer because trailers could sometimes just be really bad representations of the thing it's supposed to be a trailer for, and then the actual product is way better. So
yeah, and this trailer seems to be more like, oh, it's going to be an IMAX. Go see it in IMAX. Did we mention it's going to be an IMAX filled with IMAX cameras? IMAX. It's like, yes, we get it.
Like,
and the first episode or first
have
two episodes are going to be in the IMAX theater. Then it's going to premiere a couple months later or something.
Thanks for the reminder that I'm going to have to spend like $15, $20 on the tickets to go see this in IMAX.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see. And then the last trailer is the trailer for My Little Pony the movie, which I'm super excited about.
And it looks good.
It looks so good. I mean, they got... I know most people's complaint that I've seen is the animation, because it's more of the 3D animation instead of the 2D, more flat, hand-drawn style that the TV series is.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen some like side-by-side comparisons of like I think it was specifically Rainbow Dash and Twilight Sparkle from the TV series versus the movie, and they actually look more lifelike. They have more depth to them in the movie. Like the hair is not as like perfectly shaped, and their eyeballs have, a bit more, which therefore gives the character a bit more depth. So I have no problem with the animation style.
I don't either. I kind of like the mix that they've got going.
Yeah,
it kind of the differences kind of remind me of when they did, and this was years ago, when the Powerpuff Girls had a theatrical release movie, and the animation was a lot, it popped more for the movie rather compared to the TV show, and I think that must be just like a theatrical style thing. So I'm kind of like, what are people complaining about? They do this, but I don't know.
Yeah. But besides that, I mean, it's the characters that I know that already exist that aren't new specifically for the movie, spot on. I mean, it's still the same voice actors from the TV series doing, the well-known characters. But you still have the script writers that have to get the characterization right. And so far, even in just the trailer, they were spot on with the characterization. So, yeah, that's exciting. I'm excited. Yeah. Gives me something to look forward to in that break where we're not getting Marvel here in the next few months. So.
That is exciting.
Yeah.
All right. And then the next bit of news is one I promised a bit of a soapbox on our Facebook page about this.
Yep. And
my soapbox has been slightly tempered, but I'm still a little miffed about this. So here I go. On the over the weekend they had a big event. The Toei Animation Company, who does Sailor Moon and Sailor Moon Crystal, and finally announced that we are getting the 4th story arc of Sailor Moon, with the caveat that it's not going to be a full-on season of different individual episodes. It is going to be 2 feature-length movies. And I'm a little annoyed about this because the 4th story arc in the manga, in the comics, is my favorite of all 5. I mean, I know everybody loves the Stars arc. I can take or leave it, but the Dream arc with the Pegasus and everything else in the manga is so stinking good, and it's not anything like what the anime did, because I saw the 90s anime version of it first, and even before I read the manga version, I was like, this is kind of dumb. Even back then, I was like, this is like what is this? And then I read the manga version, and it's just so different, and it's so like the story, the characters are so much richer, and they don't bring in a whole lot of new ones. They kind of help flesh out some of the ones that have already been established. So you feel like, especially in the third arc, they introduced like the Outer Guardians and all these different things. And it felt like there was so much attention paid to them that you kind of forget, oh, by the way, here are these characters who have been there from the beginning. You kind of feel like, I kind of felt like you ignored them, and some of these others are kind of, the show's all about them now. But I'm like, but it's not the thing. Anyway, so the fourth season, I was looking forward to getting because Crystal has been so much more faithful to the adaptation of Sailor Moon. I was like, oh, finally, we're gonna get this in animated format. It's gonna look great and it's gonna look awesome, and the story is gonna be right, and yay. And now we're getting 2 movies, and I'm like, really? Is that enough time? Are you just like what's going on? But then I was kind of complaining about this to Jared, and he's been waiting for us to get to season 3, which they haven't dubbed yet, or they haven't released the dub of it yet, and he doesn't want to watch the subbed version because it's harder for him to pay attention to. But he goes, but he said, well, let's think about it this way. Each episode, so there's about 12 or 13 episodes in a story arc. Each episode's about 20 minutes long. So for 2 movies, that's 2 hours each, so 4 hours. So we might be getting the same amount of time maybe slightly less for the movie versus a TV season. So it made me feel a little bit better, but I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I'm disappointed, and I've really enjoyed Crystal. I've enjoyed seeing a more faithful adaptation of the manga, and it kind of disappoints me like how fandom is treated Crystal, and it kind of soured me on the whole Sailor Moon fandom anyway, just because people have been so critical of it. And it's not that there aren't things to be critical of. I just think people have been too critical, and it's to the point where they're just being outright mean about it, I think. It feels like to me, because I feel like, okay, we went so many years without any officially licensed Sailor Moon anything, and then the 20th anniversary comes around, and then they finally said, oh, you're getting a re-release of the anime, you're getting a re-release of the manga, and here's a brand new version, and the musicals and all the merchandise and lip gloss and stuff. I make jokes about how you could make anything and slap a Sailor Moon logo on it, and Moonies will go nuts for it, and they have to have it all. Which I admit, I like to collect the action figures and stuff like that, but I'm just kind of like, guys, you wanted officially licensed stuff for so long, and then we finally get it, and you're gonna whine about it? Ugh. Fandom, I can't with you anymore. Just stop. So anyway, I'm kind of worried, like, the backlash that people have been like really overly critical of Crystal, that they're like, well, I guess the fans don't really like this, but we're gonna finish it up anyway, but we just won't care anymore. And I'm just like, why did this have to happen on the 4th one? I like the 4th one a lot. So anyway, but the good news is we are getting it in some form, and maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll be okay. I'm just disappointed. That's all.
Yeah.
Makes me sad, but that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe not as soapboxy as I initially made it sound like. But
yeah, once the initial shock wore off.
Yeah, it's just kind of like you hear 2 movies, but the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm still waiting for, like, I haven't seen a dub of season 3 yet, but today they announced that you can pre-order the Blu-ray, special edition Blu-ray For season 3, it'll be released in December, so it's like, well, finally. So it's just like after the initial avalanche of stuff, it feels like it's kind of tapered off a bit, and which is unfortunate because some of the really good storytelling comes later. I think. Yeah. I mean, not that I don't think the rest of it's good, but it gets more exciting as you go. Anyway, that's all. Yep. Excuse me.
Well, and I guess continuing in the vein of people being disappointed, kind of, but there's a silver lining, I guess. Sense8 is technically still canceled, but they're getting the opportunity to give it a proper finale. Something that they didn't do at the end, I guess, of season 2, because they didn't know that was going to be the end of the series as a whole. So there was a short letter posted on the Sense8 Facebook page from Lana. How do they pronounce her last name? Is it Wachowski or Wachowski?
I've heard it both ways. Okay. So, yes.
Yeah. And she essentially, is a lot. The first half of her message was, that, she's been pretty upset that she fell into a depression, finding out the show had been canceled, and all these things. Essentially, she said that the letters and the petitions, I guess, have worked in a way, and they are going to give them a chance to do a 2-hour special that will be released next year. And then that will kind of give them a chance to at least give the characters a proper goodbye. And I guess there's always a possibility that, Netflix would be like, oh, well, maybe we can renew this. But at least, it's one of those that's on my list to watch, but haven't got around to it yet, so I'm assuming it probably ended on some sort of cliffhanger, and this will at least give them a chance to resolve said cliffhangers. So there's that. So for all the Sense8 fans, you can breathe a little easier. Whatever, loose ends were left at the end of season 2. Hopefully that this will at least give them a chance to tie those up. So kind of like Firefly.
Yeah, which I kind of have to say, I haven't watched Sense8, but I'm just kind of thinking just in general terms of, TV and things like that. For the fact that Netflix, a Netflix show, they can say, well, yeah, we're going to cancel you, but we're still going to let you, tie up the loose ends and give you a good send off is one of the big advantages to Netflix shows, because they're not bound so much by regular TV rules, I guess, or traditions, or however you want to call it. And so it's like, okay, yeah, you're not going to get, that's the end of the show, but, we can still let you do this one little bit. So I'm like, there's a lot of shows throughout the years. I was just recently rewatching Full House, the original series, and as beloved as that show was, they did not get a proper series finale. Mm-hmm. Because they just didn't, the network didn't tell them that they were not renewing it. Of course, now, we got Fuller House, so you get to see that, but it's just kind of like, watching that episode, I was like, this stinks as a series finale. So, yeah. So, I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking about that and thinking, well, good for Sense8 getting that much.
Yep. Fandom can be very, very convincing. When it comes
Yes.
to these things, so yay! Maybe I'll try to watch the 2 seasons before the 2-hour special comes out. So.
Mm-hmm.
And last bit of fandom news is we got a look at the cover of the first Librarians comic and the announcement that it will be available on September 13th. So, yay, Librarians! Yeah. I'm glad that we're starting to get more of the, non-TV stuff with the Librarian books. Now we're getting comics. Yeah, it's only a matter of time before we start getting like audio dramas. Should be awesome. Hey,
that would be a lot of fun.
They can do it for the X-Files. They can do it for the Librarians. So.
Yep. Yes. And it's kind of becoming something that more and more people, at least in the United States anyway, in North America, are becoming aware of. And it's like, these are fun. Mm-hmm. They're like audiobooks, but not. Mm-hmm. And we like it. So, anyway, but yay, comics. And the artwork actually looks pretty good from what I've, so that'll be exciting to see it all put together.
Yep. Yay, Librarians!
Yes. Yeah, a little bit of housekeeping. Mm-hmm. July's book for the Doctor Who Traveling Vortex Book Club is The Night of the Intelligence.
Oh, and I was just gonna pop in real quick. Speaking of traveling the vortex, they've posted it on their Facebook page, so I think we're allowed to say congratulations, Keith and Sarah, their little girl was born yesterday, I believe, as we're recording this.
Yep.
On July 2nd, and no pictures of the baby have been posted yet, but it's like, that's fine. Go rest, and you've had a long day.
Yes.
Your time with her.
Yes. Sounds like mom and baby are doing quite well, and so we want to offer our heartiest congratulations to the happy parents, and sounds like all went well.
Yep. Yay!
Yay, babies!
First podcast, baby.
First podcast, baby, by a month. Not that it's a competition.
Nope. And then also in housekeeping, since Brittany's on here, Brittany's on vacation, but we did finally bring back the photo challenges, monthly photo challenges. So this month is the ABCs of Spider-Man. Coincidence? Not.
Yes, given what movie's coming out later this week.
Yes. So, of course, in this case, Spider-Man, it's movies, comics, TV series, whatever. It's just as long as it's related to good old Spidey. If you do post anything from Spider-Man Homecoming, please let it not be spoilers. Because it comes out 7 days into the start of the photo challenge, so there's pretty much an entire month where people could spoil things. Please don't.
Yep.
Other than that, pretty much anything goes with the with these photo challenges.
Although if it's like from a trailer or a poster or something, it'd probably be okay.
Yeah, if it's something that was released to the public, movie poster or something from one of the trailers, absolutely, that's fine. But once you go see the movie and there's like something that's like, oh, I can't believe they did that, or some sort of plot twist, please don't post it. No.
That is all we ask.
That is all we ask. So there's that for Homecoming. And then real quick, I'm going to give my recap of InConJunction, which was over the weekend here in Indy. That was over at the Marriott at 21st and Shadeland. So it's east side, not quite northeast side-ish of Indy. bit further south of my old stopping grounds from where I used to live, actually. But InConJunction is a long-standing, this was the 37th year for it, actually, convention here in Indy. It started as a literary conference for sci-fi and fantasy literary fans. And in 37 years, it's expanded quite a bit to pretty much anything science fiction and fantasy, not just books. And I attended InConJunction one other time for like a day. It has to have been at least a decade ago. So it's been a while. So I kind of went into this convention not really knowing a whole lot about it. But I had applied for a table and got accepted. And I got a badge out of it as well. And in return, I had to interview the con chair and the co-con chair, which I did. I talked to both of them. So that was all. Plus, I also talked to an author who was there. So I will post all of those. Will probably get tacked on to the end of this episode. That way people don't have to download a separate thing. I like to tack on that interviews if they're not super long on the end, just so you can only have to download one file and you can just listen through it all and get everything. So I was at the table. I had the table in the atrium. They call it the atrium because it's not the lobby of the hotel. It's the atrium, which kind of connects the lobby to like the more conferencey area of the hotel where they have the ballrooms and everything. So I had a nice little table. It was right underneath some sunlights. But they have the windows and the roof, which we had sunshine most of the weekend, so that was kind of nice to be soaking up the vitamin D. It did rain buckets on Friday, and that was very loud, but it's okay. And I was actually right across the atrium facing the guys from Gaming with Scott. So I get to stare at people I know the entire weekend and listen to them. And actually they had me on, they recorded an episode Friday evening where we talked about whether Wonder Woman is the best DC comic book based movie ever. So I will put a link to that in the show notes so you can listen to it and see how we all, I guess, argued our feelings on that particular question. Spoilers, for the most part, we all thought yes. But you can listen to our reasons if you listen to the episode. So
you get more detail.
You get more detail. So that was fun. And then that day was kind of short because I didn't get there till the show really didn't start till like 4. I got there at 1. So that was kind of a short day. Saturday was the long full day. I was there from like 9 to almost 9 in the evening. And I was at my table pretty much the entire day, except to leave to go get lunch and then to go do an interview. I interviewed Tammy Jo Eckhart. She is an author. She now lives in Indiana. She's lived at various different places, but now she's living in Indiana with her husband. And she likes to call herself a, what was the word she used? She's a non-genre specific author. She writes just whatever. She's most known for her more adult books. That's what she's best known for, but she has written some non-fiction, like historical things. She's done some fantasy and some science fiction. So she kind of writes just whatever tickles her fancy. She was very fun to talk to. She's super smart. She loves to talk about whatever, happens to be the subject. And she was one of the guests of honor for the show. So she was super nice to talk to. And I spent most of the day just at the table, actually, just talking to people and handing out business cards. I excuse me, have expanded on the things that I have at the table, and I had tabled at Midwest Toy Fest last year. I pretty much just had myself, our sign, and a few coloring pages and some candy and business cards, and that was about it. So I just like, let's try to make the table a bit more interesting and a bit more, fun. So I still had our banner, which is always fun because it's pink, so it gets people's attention. I got this really fun Doctor Who fabric at Joann's a couple of months ago. And what it is it's one big panel is the design, and it's the TARDIS with Capaldi's Doctor, Missy and Clara, and then the Doctor Who logo.
Nice.
Yeah, so if you wanted to, you could make like a really big pillow. If you wanted to, I just folded under the edges and sewed them down and kind of made it like a makeshift table cover. So it doesn't cover the entire table, but it's just some, gives it a little something interesting other than just a black tablecloth. And then I had the coloring pages. I still have the coloring pages. I've not given those completely out yet. And I had crayons. So if kids or adults, wanted to grab a coloring page to have something to do while they're waiting for something, that's fine. I had some stickers too. And then I also created a little makeshift, I was calling it a selfie station, where I had I had some paper masks, I had some Star Wars ones, and then some Marvel ones. I had a couple of like dress up pieces. Really, it was intended for little kids, but adults could do it too. I guess if they really wanted to. And then I had the Duff Door, which is my teddy bear dressed like the 10th Doctor, complete with sonic screwdriver, and my giant stuffed BB-8. So I figure, if people want to come and put on a funny mask and take a selfie with BB-8, sure, why not? Nobody really did. Like, come on, people, you have no sense of humor. But maybe selfies are not this crowd's thing. I don't know.
Perhaps. Sometimes it takes people a minute to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, maybe. And then I also had prints. I had cosplay prints. I have photos that were taken of my Jessica Jones and my 4th Doctor cosplay. And I had some prints made for people to have, essentially. I was not going to charge like a certain price for them specifically. Instead, I had a bucket with a little sign on it. And this is something I'm going to be doing from here on out at any event where I have a table at, specifically. If I'm sharing a table with someone else, probably not, but there are other events coming up where I can have, I'm going to have my own table. I'm not sharing with anyone. And really what it is you can have the cosplay print if you want, where I'm only asking for some sort of monetary donation, whatever you want to give. And I am going to be collecting that, and I'm going to be adding that to our total at the end of the year for the Fangirls Give Back. There's a lot of cosplayers out there that they're like, $5-10 for this 8x10 of them, dressed in whatever cosplay they decided to do prints up, and that's fine. That's totally cool. Me, not so much. I'm not going to ask people to be like, hey, give me $5 for this photo of this person you don't know. Dressed up in this character you may or may not know. You may just like the photo. It's to each their own. But to me, it was a little weird to be like, hey, give me $5 for this photo of me. So I thought this would be, a bit more of a fun way to, because I know people that do collect prints of cosplayers for one reason or another. They like the outfit, or they just like the photo, or they actually know the person, or they like the cosplayer and they just want to kind of have a commemoration of, hey, I know this person. So that's what I'm doing with those. I only gave out 2 entire weekend, but again, that's okay. The InConJunctions, I don't want to say it's a little weird. I think that's just the way they like to do things, but for it being around for 37 years, it's a tiny convention. From what I heard, like on average, I don't know if that's been the case since they started, but now, they may get like 500, 650 people for the entire weekend.
Oh, wow.
If they reach 650 people, I never saw them. They must have been around the corner in all the other rooms where I wasn't. Because to me, it did not seem like there were that many people, even if you added up everyone, for the entire weekend. But, if that's, I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you don't need, Indianapolis and a lot of cities do not need a dozen big conventions. So staying small isn't necessarily a bad thing. It did allow, because it was smaller and therefore on the quieter side, it did allow me to get some things done when we had lulls, especially during meal times. I knocked out some cosplay related stuff going into PopCon. I managed to burn through most of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which that's a really big book. So I had barely started it when the convention started, or I'm almost done. So getting caught up on my Goodreads reading challenge for the year. Sunday was really my busiest day. Sunday, the show only went till 3. But it was my busiest day because I had 2 events. I had the thing with InConJunction is they have panels. They also have a room where they screen independent films that are science fiction and fantasy related. Sometimes they're spoofs, sometimes they're just, preferably local made films. The Hoosier Network, which is a Indiana-based Doctor Who fan club, had a screening room that went almost all day, every day for the entire 3 days. I think they shut down the room for 5 hours every night. They closed at 4 a.m. and then reopened at 9 a.m. And they were showing episodes of Doctor Who, both classic and New Who. I think there was Blackadder and some other shows, but it was mostly Doctor Who. They showed all of season 10, so they got to the Doctor Falls Sunday afternoon after Saturday night. I'm glad I was at a panel when they started watching that, because I could kind of hear it from where I was. So
oh boy.
I probably would have been crying at my table if I'd not been in a completely different room. Yeah, really. I don't need these reels again. But I did talk to them. The club president just retired. He kind of had his farewell at InConJunction, and then the new club president took over, and then the co-president or vice president or whatever. I talked to her and the new club president about Time Lord Expo, because they didn't know about it. So I got to kind of plug Time Lord Expo to them, and they were kind of excited about it, and they offered to help promote it to their. They've got a newsletter, so that people subscribe to their newsletter and everything, and all the club members. And they were kind of excited, club road trip maybe in October to Dayton. I'm like, hey, sure, why not? So,
Do it.
More the merrier. So, come and do it, the thing. Excuse me. That was also the day I interviewed the co-con chair. The way InConJunction does their, they have a different con chair every year. And for, I don't know how long they've been doing it, but what they do is, like, this year's con chair, he was co-con chair last year. And now is con chair this year. His co-con chair this year will now be the con chair next year. Her co-con chair next year will be the con chair 2 years from now. That way they're getting fresh blood and fresh ideas. Because every year they have a theme. And this year's theme was on a wind and a song. So they try to get guests that kind of fit that theme, authors and cosplayers and that sort of thing. Next year's theme is going to be Jim Henson themed, trying to get authors and artists that have ties to the various Henson works. So think Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, that sort of thing. So they couldn't drop really any names yet because contracts haven't been signed. But that's what they're going for next year's theme, which that's like super exciting. I'm like, ooh, to try go next year. I had a event. It wasn't a panel. It was an event. They do gaming too, kind of like Gen Con, but on a much smaller scale. And then they have like events, some crafting events. The cosplay guest of honor, Mugshell, she does a lot of hands-on type panels at all the conventions she goes to, teaching people how to use things like thermoplastics and Warbler. She's super, super talented. She's a super talented cosplayer. And then I helped Tammy Jo. We had a kind of just a hands-on thing where it was color your fandom. So essentially we went and sat at a table and colored for an hour. Which the vendor hall had just opened up. It was Sunday. People were kind of Sunday, and happens a lot I feel at most cons I go to. By the time Sunday hits, there's this general feel of
time to go home.
I need a nap. Kind of a feeling. So it was just kind of fun. We sat there, we colored. We had a couple of people show up that sat down and colored with us too. We kind of chatted with each other about fandom and that sort of thing. So it was kind of nice to just chill for an hour. I was coloring in my Doctor Who adult coloring book. I didn't get very far, even for coloring for a solid hour. And then I had
those coloring books are pretty detailed.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I was doing. It was a page. It's 3 Cybermen. I started with the first Cyberman, the one that was right in the middle. I didn't even finish coloring that Cyberman in an hour. So, alrighty then, because they are detailed. And then I also had my podcasting 101 panel, which was Sunday afternoon, which is the exact same panel I did at HoosierCon, however many weeks ago that was. I submitted that panel when they were asking for submissions for panel ideas, and it got accepted. And what they'll do is they've got panels that get accepted, I guess, and then other people can request to be part of that panel and or event, which is how I ended up in the Color Your Fandom. And I had a second person get added to my podcasting panel. He's an author, and I touched base with him earlier in the week just because I wanted to kind of introduce myself and say, hey, I look forward to doing the panel with you. And apparently he had to cancel coming to the convention completely. So I was without a person on my panel. It was going to be just me, which would have been fine. I could have done it by myself. It wouldn't have been nearly as fun. But it just so happened that James Wilder, who I interviewed at the Hall of Heroes Comic-Con earlier in this year, and I met him a couple times before, but he's a author, an Indiana-based author. He's the one that wrote the book of Doctor Who poetry for the 50th anniversary episode of Doctor Who up to the 50th anniversary special. He had happened to walk by the table Saturday, and we got to talking, and I mentioned that I was doing panel, and my other panel was canceled. And he's like, well, I can help you. I was like, do you know anything about podcasting? He's like, yeah, I've got one I do like once a month, and he's been on a couple others. I'm like, okay. So I went and talked to the folks in charge of the convention. And I'm like, well, my other panel is canceled, but I have someone that's volunteered. Can he do it? And they're like, yeah, sure. I'm like, sweet. So, big thing. I told him this before the convention was shutting down and before he left. But big thank you to James for stepping in. He did not have to do that, but he was. It helped a lot to have a second person, and he actually had information about some podcasting things I had no idea about. So we were able to play off each other, which was good, and give our audience members some good information. We didn't have a lot of people, but the people we did have, really good questions, which is always a good thing. And actually one lady who was asking a lot of questions during the panel, she still had questions when we were done, but we needed to leave the room because there was another panel. So she just walked with me back out to my table and continued to ask questions. And we were talking about podcasting and really just doing media in general, podcasting and YouTube and all that. And she's got an idea for a podcast, but she's not sure, as far as format and how often she wants to do that and all those things. So, but I think she got some valuable information out of it, which is good. But definitely by Sunday evening, my throat was done. I'd done more talking on Sunday than I'd done the entire weekend, so I was tired and my throat was sore. So I was glad to come home and kind of chill on the couch and not talk for the rest of the day. So. But all those interviews with Joe, who's this year's con chair, and next year's con chair, and Tammy Joe, I will tack on to the end of this episode so people can hear it. So.
Sounds like you had a good time.
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. I mean, for all things considering, I didn't pay for the badge, I didn't pay for the table. Really, it was just the gas and what food I bought for myself over the weekend was really my only expenses. And I got to talk to some new people and make some new connections and pass out, good number of the business cards for the podcast. So if anyone's listening to this because you came across our table and picked up our business card, hi.
Hello.
So that was my experience at InConJunction. If it doesn't conflict with anything else next year, I may see about, doing the same thing again next year. So hopefully it's not butting up against another convention either before or after like this year. Like even as low key as that convention was today, Concrud was trying to start to set in, and I'm like, I don't have time for this because PopCon is this weekend. So
there's only so many weekends though. You can schedule things.
Yeah, but I was like. Like, how smart was I putting conventions back to back? But oh well. Anyway.
I guess we'll find out this weekend.
Yeah, we'll see how I feel come Sunday evening again. Anyway.
Yeah.
So let's move on to feedback. Because we do have a little bit of feedback. Mostly it's just Facebook comments on different things. But it counts.
Yes.
So especially
We
with
read our
the
Facebook
trailers that we shared. So first we got a couple of comments on the Jumanji trailer. Excuse me. Again, my throat's still not quite recovered. Brian says completely different take from the former one. Might be trying to be too slapstick, which, yeah, it does look a little slapsticky. The Rock, he's an action hero, but he has done comedy.
Yes.
And he's okay at it.
Tooth Fairy.
Exactly. But Jack Black is also in this movie, and of course with Jack Black, you kind of expect a more slapsticky, and Kevin Hart, too, actually. And we'll see how Karen does. So, as far as doing comedy. But, I mean, it's also a kid's movie, essentially, too. So, slapstick is just an easy go-to anytime you make something for a younger audience.
Yeah.
So, it could be too slapsticky. We'll have to see. It's just the first trailer, so. And then Shalane said, another movie about a group of kids in detention. Which is true. Kind of like the Power Rangers. A bunch of kids in detention. It says she kind of wants to go see it after Star Wars because it does get released right after The Last Jedi. I think the week after.
Yeah.
So, which they're smart not releasing it the same weekend as Episode 8. So then they would get
the weekend. Anything that gets released the same weekend as Star Wars, I think. It's one of those that are like, yeah, we really have no faith in this, so just put it up against Star Wars.
Either that, or they're hoping that they'll just get enough of the crowd that just absolutely does not want anything to do with Star Wars.
That too.
Yeah, I did like the fact that it's like kids in detention. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like Power Rangers.
All over again. They're trying to cash in on Breakfast Club nostalgia reasons.
Yeah. And then Glenn commented on the Inhumans trailer, and he said, I've been skeptical about Marvel projects before, and they seem to always pull them off in the end, but this is the one that scares me the most. I want it to succeed, but this just looks like a mess. Hope I'm proved wrong in the end. And Glenn, I completely agree. I don't know if it necessarily looks like a mess, but I am very skeptical about this just because the Inhumans, Marvel hasn't quite seemed to figure out what they want to do with that particular property. I mean, yeah, we've introduced the Inhumans with Daisy and all that and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but this was supposed to be a movie.
Yeah.
At first. And they put the kibosh on that, and now they're like, no, it's going to be a TV series. And now it's not even going to be a full TV series. It's going to be a mini-series. Which, I guess, if you want to be a pessimist, you could almost say, well, that seems like Marvel doesn't have that much faith in that particular property. I don't know if that's the case. It may just be they're being overly cautious just because it's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's not as well known as Iron Man and Captain America and the Incredible Hulk. So it's like, let's play it safe.
Although with Guardians, I mean, they went full out.
Well, yes.
This is what we're doing. This is what we're getting, and you know, we don't care if you hate it or not or something.
But
so it's like,
but considering what they're doing with the MCU as a whole, they really didn't have a choice because they needed to be able to introduce another Infinity Stone, more of Thanos, being out in outer space. So it was kind of a do it or bust kind of thing with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, true.
It paid off, which is good. And this might too. So again, I'm kind of trying to reserve judgment until I actually see the series. So
yeah. Although I will say this, I should have said it earlier when we were talking about it. I don't know the guy's name, the character or the actor, but the main one who talked the most in the trailer. Yeah. Every time he opened his mouth, I wanted to punch him in the teeth. So I'm like, I hope you aren't the main character, because if you are, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, it's funny because we even talked about him when we were talking Game of Thrones, and even mentioned that. I'm like, well, if his character in Inhumans is anything like Ramsay Bolton, then I may have trouble like differentiating the two, and it seems to be the case. He's kind of a jerk.
Yeah,
kind of
not even a likable villain so far. I mean, if he is the villain indeed, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
just like kind of Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
Whenever you see him in a good guy role, I immediately go to Men in Black,
Edgar
suit, or the guy he played in Daredevil.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Kingpin.
No.
Yeah.
Cannot compute.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, but I guess, and I did not know this, because he plays, I guess, the brother of the king. But the king, Black Bolt, I think is his character name. I guess the reason he doesn't talk in the trailer is because he really can't talk because his voice is like supersonic. And if he talks, he could like destroy everything.
Interesting.
So that could be and because that was one of my things that kind of jumped out at me in the trailer, like when we see like the scene of him and like the queen walking down the stairs, and he had just like this look of like disgust and kind of anger, and to me it seemed like, okay. And then I find out after the fact, like, yeah, technically he can't talk because he would destroy things with his powerful voice. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then we're going to have to do a lot of emoting in the face there. So,
unless there's going to be telepathy going on and we can hear his thoughts in a normal voice without the
I have no idea. I don't. Apparently, this particular character's got all sorts of powers. With the voice, and he has the ability to teleport, but it requires Lockjaw to do it.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. Anyway, well, we can discuss that once it premieres, obviously. And then our last comments / feedback comes from Joseph in regards to the My Little Pony trailer. And his comment is, oh no, another old thing I wanted to die is being unneedlessly revived. Well, at least the effects will be better than any Power Rangers show. Which, ouch, as a My Little Pony fan. kind of harsh there, but, you're entitled to your opinion. I did comment back on his comment, though, and say that technically it's not being revived. It's a continuation of the TV series, which is still going on quite strongly. By the way, it's in the middle of its 7th season and has been renewed for at least season 8, as far as I know. So it's not really being revived. It's just it's kind of like SpongeBob. He's finally getting a feature film. Except I like My Little Pony, not SpongeBob.
Well, SpongeBob's had other movies too, much too.
Yeah.
Never mind. We're not going to talk about that.
Anyway, yeah. I'm like, SpongeBob has been around for like 20 years or something. Like, how is that a thing? Anyway. So, yeah. Well, again, teach their own. My Little Pony is very polarizing with people. So, you either love it or you hate it. So, there doesn't seem to really be an in-between. But I'm excited for it. And, I know the other people I know that are My Little Pony fans are excited for it as well. So.
Mm-hmm. And, if it's not your thing, it's not your thing.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So, but
it's like that comic that you see where the dude like holds the other guy's lips closed and like, shh, let people enjoy things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Pretty much.
Anyway.
So.
All good.
That's where we are with feedback. So thank you to everyone who comments on either comments on YouTube or on Facebook or sends us an email. So we appreciate it.
Yep.
Even if you don't agree with us, we still appreciate it.
Like we said, we read it out on the podcast.
As long as it's appropriate.
Well, yes.
No bad words.
Anyway.
Yes. I'm kind of like stalling here. It's like I don't want to get into the feels of all of this, but we don't have a choice. So
well, we have a choice, but we don't want to make that choice.
Yeah.
Rachel, it's probably going to be about 10 times worse come Christmas.
Oh, I know. I don't want to think about it. I don't
Although
want to think
Christmas
about it.
is going to be so much fun, though, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, it will be. Okay, so Doctor Who season 10. We were so excited. It's like, yay, Doctor Who's back, because we've been without Doctor Who for so long. And now all of a sudden the season's over. And I'm like, what the crap? Where did the time go?
Exactly.
That's just how it goes. It's like it's like we just started. Oh wait, well we kind of did, but
yeah, it seems like just yesterday they've been, they gave us like the little teaser introducing us to Pearl Mackie as the new companion. Like Pearl Mackie is Bill, and now the season's over and Bill is dead essentially. It's like okay.
Maybe we should have sounded the spoiler horn.
Spoiler, sweetie.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
if there's any new listeners, when it comes to the TV shows, we get like a couple of days, depending on when it airs, before the embargo and spoilers gets worn off. So by now, if you haven't watched it, I'm sorry.
we will spoil everything.
Spoil everything from season 10. So
from here on out.
If anyone, I know you guys do, but if any of our listeners are also listeners of Traveling the Vortex, you will know based on the guys' feedback, their reviews of the episodes, and the feedback that us and other listeners of Traveling the Vortex throughout the season. This season has been quite polarizing with people.
Quite a bit, yeah, I have to say.
People have either loved it or they've hated it.
Or they've loved certain episodes and hated others and vice versa.
Yeah. Me, personally, I didn't hate any of the episodes. There are definitely some that I loved way more than others. For me, and I didn't want to say anything at the time because I didn't want to go on that soapbox because I knew we were going to hear eventually when Chrissy mentioned, when we were talking about Gallifrey 1 and the writer of Eaters of Light being at Gallifrey 1. For me, that was one of the most meh episodes of the entire season for me. That was kind of the low point. And it wasn't even that bad of an episode. I was just like, it's all right. It was kind of a fun story. Yeah. It was a semi-historical. It's not, obviously, it's Doctor Who, so it's not completely historically accurate. But just the premise of it, I was like, okay. Whatever. And
I can definitely see where people would say that. I think, coming from where I was watching it, and this is how I have to describe season 10 as a whole, and I'll go through it piece by piece. I hopefully won't take too long. The pilot was excellent. I loved that first episode. That was great. It was a good introduction to Bill and all the things that will be going on this season. Smile was okay. Thin Ice, pardon the pun, it kind of left me cold. I know, yes.
Yeah. To me, Thin Ice was essentially, to me, it almost felt like a rehash of The Beast Below.
It kind of did. It kind of did. And I really, and I actually like Beast Below, but the whole time I'm like, this is just like that other one. And but I didn't really care about the characters, the side characters. I was just like, whatever, these people. And then the next one, Oxygen. I won't rehash my feedback from Traveling the Vortex.
You can go listen to that episode, Traveling the Vortex.
Yeah, I loathed as in hated that episode with all of my soul.
Yeah. You skipped one though, because Knock Knock was after Thin Ice.
Oh, Knock Knock. Sorry. See, and I'm forgetting ones because and it's funny because I actually liked Knock Knock to a degree. Yeah. Because that one like her Bill's flatmates or housemates.
Yep.
I couldn't care.
It kind of had a little bit of the Hyde feel.
Yeah.
To me, it felt like Hyde. After watching it, I'm like, hindsight's obviously 20/20, but I'm almost like, Hyde would have been a better episode for Friday Night Who that particular week.
Yeah. And I really liked Hyde. So again, it's like you're hearkening back to these other episodes that I liked better.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, what is going on? So, but the end of Knock Knock was pretty good with the twist of the caretaker and his mother, daughter.
Air quote.
Yeah, but she really was his mother, but because time and everything. So that one was fine. Oxygen, hated it. Just don't want to talk about it.
There's
just
a lot of there's a lot of like, well, if you just did this, you could have avoided all these other issues.
Yeah, that is true. It's just, there were just so many problems with that. But anyway, I don't want to dwell on that. And then the next one was...
Extremis.
Was it Extremis?
Yes,
yeah.
Extremis.
Extremis and Pyramid at the End of the World were both really good standalone episodes. But because they were part of that 3-episode arc, it kind of fell apart in Lie of the Land. Because that one was just sort of like, meh.
Yeah. And then one of the best things about Lie of the Land was, excuse me, it gave us, what do I want to say here? Because Oxygen for Bill as a companion was obviously the thing with people being murdered and all that in Thin Ice. That was kind of, every companion gets this, where they go and have adventures with the Doctor for the first couple episodes, and then they come across a situation where, oh crap, this is actually a very dangerous thing, traveling with the Doctor. Mm-hmm. It's not all fun and games. This can get quite serious. Yeah. I could die. And she has that's where she has that moment in Oxygen. With her suit constantly failing her.
And I get that, and I get that was an important part of her arc. It was the way that it was done.
Yes.
That I was just like, I don't buy this at all.
Yeah.
Like, you could have done a better setup.
Yeah. But
it's the same way I felt about Kill the Moon. It's like, this is too much.
Yeah. But unlike something like Kill the Moon, that's a good example where the Doctor pushed Clara to a point where she didn't want to travel with him anymore and was ready to call it quits. Bill showed just how strong she is. And this is one of the things I really love about Bill. Reminds me of Ace quite a bit, where she's not the damsel in distress companion, even though she's female. A lot of the female companions, they're mooning of the Doctor sometimes, not Dawn obviously, but they get in these damsel in distress situations and they go with that trope where they're screaming, they need rescuing. And then you have companions like Ace, who is, crap, no, I don't need rescuing from the Doctor, throw some Nitro 9 and be done with it. And Bill is a lot like that, not to the extreme of Ace, where she's got, homemade explosives, but
or a baseball bat against
the Dalek. Yeah, but Bill is very strong and, for the most part, refuses to become the damsel in distress trope. Even with the things that went on with Oxygen, at the end of the day, she recovered, and there didn't seem to be any ill feelings towards the Doctor. She understood what the Doctor had to do and move on. So when the monks take over during that 3-episode arc, and we get to Lie of the Land, her strength is ultimately what solves the entire thing, which is great. The Doctor tries to be brilliant, like with his big Time Lord brain, and it fails on him. It ends up being Bill, her strength, which I think she was a pretty strong person even before she met the Doctor.
Oh yeah, and I think that was illustrated very well in the pilot.
Yes.
Is, you see just how well she rolls with, okay, all this weird stuff's going on, this puddle is coming after me, and all of a sudden we're in Australia.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
And so that space, that reflects very well on her as a character, and that's, there's that line in Lie of the Land at the end of the episode where the Doctor goes, I can't remember what it is exactly, but it's like, 7 billion humans, some of you are, one or two of you are worth putting up with the rest of them.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And that's, that's a compliment towards Bill.
Yeah.
So she deserves all of that, and all these things that she does go through, even if I'm sitting here as a viewer going, I don't buy that. But Bill, her Pearl Mackey's acting and her responses is that helps me buy it a little bit more, even if I'm still sitting here going, no, I don't get it, which I know kind of sounds like a contradiction, but some of this stuff, if Bill wasn't the character she was, I would have just said, forget it, I'm done with Doctor Who for this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
And Nardole, you have to admit, was used, I would have to say, very well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
He was not overused. He wasn't
exactly.
a series regular.
He was get overused, but
yeah,
he was just perfect.
Yeah, but what I love most about Nardole is he is essentially a substitute for River.
Yes.
Where there's few people that will tell the Doctor he's being an idiot to his face and try to put him in his place. River is one of them, and Nardole is also one of them, and I can see why.
Nardole's kind of...
Yeah.
And I think Nardole even told the Doctor, River gave me permission to do this. So
yes.
And that makes it great, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, Nardole, he's whatever. And then he has that line like, River told me to...
No.
But once they had that line, and I was like, okay, I'm totally fine. If I ever do have a problem with Nardole, that line makes it okay.
Mm-hmm.
And he got even better as time went on. So.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, the monk, the monk 3 story arc was a bit hard to digest, just because.
Mm-hmm.
I think there were issues with pacing, and I don't know if maybe stuff needed to be cut out and make it 2 episodes, or if we're missing a whole bunch and it almost needed to be 4 episodes or something. But it's just the pacing of it. If you watch, and maybe I need to watch all 3 back to back to back, because I just watched them once each week and haven't rewatched it since. So maybe watching all 3 stories right in a row is essentially, almost 3 hours, may make it feel a little better.
Maybe. I mean, and again, and I think the Traveling the Vortex guys kind of pointed this out, is I think all 3 episodes were written by different people. I think Stephen Moffat credit on at least one of them. Now I'm forgetting my details.
Moffat had singular credit for Extremis. He co-wrote The Pyramid at the End of the World with Peter Harness, and then Toby Whithouse wrote The Lie of the Land.
Okay, so that's what it was. So Moffat was involved in all of them, but they were co-writing on 2 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like. I don't know. It's kind of like, oh, here, let's join these together somehow, but it didn't quite work out so well. So I don't know, because I mean, I love Pyramid of the End of the World. I just thought was a lot of fun. It reminded me, even though Unit wasn't in it, it reminded me of those old Unit stories.
Yes.
And those kind of things, and I love those. And I'm just sitting here going like, "Where's Kate Stewart? Where's Oscar?
Yeah,
Come
really.
on! We need those 2." But But I mean, it
like some mention Skype call.
Yeah.
Ignore.
Yeah. It didn't bother me that they weren't there, but it just felt like this would be a good time to bring them in. But I don't know. It's just I loved it, and the stuff going on at the lab, and it's like, how does all hook together? And then the Doctor meets Erica, the lady, the scientist at the lab. She's just so amazing. Knows what she's doing, and she knows what to say, and it's like, okay, you need to be a companion, even if it's just for a little while, or for one adventure or something.
Yeah.
So
and then too, we also got the Doctor's pride kind of playing a part too, where he doesn't want to admit that he's to his enemies and to Bill that he's walking wounded.
Right.
Because at this point he can't see.
That is true. I mean, his blindness does keep coming back as part of the story.
Yeah.
And that's a big ending. I mean, that story almost felt like that one could have been the regeneration there at the end.
Yeah. There's several times, and I'm sure this was done on purpose because we all know that Capaldi's leaving. So they kept putting in things into various episodes. We're like, oh, we're going to get a surprise regeneration? And so by the time we reach the season finale, like, my nerves are like shot. Like, what are you doing?
I was holding my breath every single time I would see regeneration energy. I'm just like, Doctor, you are tempting the fates here.
Yeah.
Is one of these offshoot articles that I read somewhere actually going to be true with the surprise regeneration?
Well, we can talk about that when we get to the Dr. Falls. We get back to the season.
Exactly.
Here, so I think it's easier to go in order. So
I guess
so. Empress of Mars.
I loved this one, and I think it's because, well, part of it is because it's so bonkers. First of all, like you have Victorian soldiers, from Victorian Britain, and they're on Mars with ice warriors, and I'm just like, only in Doctor Who, guys, only in Doctor Who would this work. And I mean, I think after the heaviness of the Monk two-parter, well, the heaviness / kind of disappointment. I mean, not fully. I mean, I didn't hate it, but it was sort of a letdown. I was just ready for something fun and somewhat silly. And I hate using the term romp, but I guess that applies. An adventure. It's an adventure story. Yeah. And it's just
it was a reminiscent of a classic era.
Oh, yes.
Like Patrick Troughton, which it gives a nice nod to the second Doctor, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it felt like, classic Doctor Who meets Edgar Rice Burroughs, like Princess of Mars type, John Carter of Mars type of thing. It's like, obviously it's on Mars. So it kind of had that feeling to it, and I really liked it, and it was fun and kind of sweet in a way. So it felt like a good palate cleanser before you get to the end of the rest of the season. So I mean, it was written by Mark Gatiss, and some of his stuff is sort of hit and miss, but I think this one he hit.
I think he redeemed himself after Sleep No More.
Yeah.
Yes. Even though he did, even though there was a line in there that when the Empress says to her, "Sleep no more," and it's like, oh, you did. Okay, well, I'll allow it since this episode's been so much fun so far.
I think that was him trolling us. Like, he knew that episode didn't maybe go over too well, so he's like,
yeah, that could have been. That could have been. So I don't know. Isn't there a thing like every other Gatiss episode is really good? So the next time he writes for Doctor Who, he'd be like, oh dear.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd have to go back and look and see what the pattern is, but
yeah. Lazarus Experiment springs to mind.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. And then after that the next episode after that's the Eaters of Light, which for me was kind of the meh episode of the season. So.
And I could see where that would happen. For me, it kind of felt like it was another adventure type of thing. Maybe not quite as good as Empress of Mars, but it's another one-off Doctor in historical time period, and creepy supernatural alien weirdness is going on. So, so I mean, I was fine with it. It wasn't my absolute favorite, but it was okay.
And Nardole kind of wanting to stay behind because he became an official member of the tribe.
Yeah.
We are now of the tribe.
Yeah. Although that did give us another companion kind of benchmark where the companion realizes that the TARDIS translates everything, but unlike Rose, where Rose was almost like offended that the TARDIS was essentially getting into her head and translating everything, Bill was like, yeah.
She was excited about it.
She was excited
She was
about
like, she had to tell everyone that the doctor
yeah.
was like, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's my TARDIS.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't realized that she didn't know that yet. She's been traveling with the doctor.
Yeah.
How long now?
Yeah. I mean, when every time we get a new companion, even if they're one off,
on the Donna level of excitement.
Yeah.
Not yet. Just Donna when they were in Pompeii.
Yep.
Yep. Let's see, and then that leads us into the two-part, the two-part season finale.
Still there?
So.
Yes, Skype's being a little funny.
Yeah, it is. We'll soldier on though.
Okay.
We're gonna get through this. It's probably the master. Speaking of which,
probably.
Yeah.
So the two parts.
Finally, we finally get the question answered of what was in the vault.
Yeah. Well, we'd figured that out a couple episodes previously, but yes, the return of Missy, and I cannot say enough good things about as Missy.
Oh, I know.
She is so good, and no
really
offense.
Stroke of casting.
Yeah, I mean, no offense to all the previous incarnations in the Master. They all have their pluses and minuses. Even Mr. Dressing for the occasion, but
we love that part of him.
Yeah, but at this point of the Master.
Oh yeah,
easily.
She's just I think it does. I mean, you have Delgado and Ainley from the classic series, and they did their very villainous master thing. I mean, the mustache
swirling.
Because we've had more time with her, I think it's more, and especially this season, a little bit more nuance, I guess. That sounds kind of pretentious, but I can call it where she had more character behind her, and with her and the Doctor interacting, she's friends with him, and this is how their friendship manifests itself, and they're not flirting because they're above the hormonal. What did she say in the Magician's Apprentice? Something.
Yeah, it was hormonal something or other. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
it was very snappy.
And she's letting her guard down a little bit more too. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like she had these walls that she needed to keep up. She's just like, Here, I am what I am. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then with this whole the Doctor's trying to help her be good, and sort of thing, like, and she actually kind of seems to want it, but isn't quite sure how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so she's kind of in this weird middle ground where not really a villain, but she's not a hero either.
No.
Right. So So, and there's like some moments where she's kind of just confused as to what she wants, but in the end, she kind of makes her decisions, and that's what she's gonna do, and for better or worse.
Yeah. But she did make the right decision at the end, even if she didn't get to follow through in it.
Well, yes. And it's definitely not something the Doctor would have done, but she's not the Doctor.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Right.
like you can't expect Missy to do what the Doctor does.
Even when she was trying to impersonate him.
Yeah.
She was failing so miserably with that, but it was funny.
Just, yes.
Calling yourself Doctor Who.
Get with it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Exposition and something else. Or schnacks.
Yes.
It was just like, Missy. We're not in the middle of Scar.
Yeah.
Arrow with a pointy stick.
Yeah. I love how her umbrella turned out to be her Sonic.
Oh, yes.
And I was just thinking, Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she walked in with that. It's like,
and it's like, what else? What other Sonic device would Missy have? An umbrella. Okay.
Kind of like Hagrid in Harry Potter, where he's not supposed to have a wand, so he hides it in the umbrella.
Yes.
That's funny.
Lose the pieces? Not at all.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah,
just because not become Dumbledore.
Yeah. So, World Enough in Time and the Doctor Falls are. We see the return of the Mondasian Cybermen. And I think in this case, you can call them the Mondasian Cybermen. I know Sean was having fits with, like, they're just Cybermen. I'm like, no, in this case, I mean, when Missy is, like, on the computer and figuring out, where this big spaceship had come from and where it's been and that sort of thing, and Mondas pops up, it's like, no, it's very specific that it's got ties to Mondas, and therefore they are Mondasian Cybermen.
Well, and even there's that bit at the end of the Doctor Falls where the Doctor is fighting the Cybermen, and he says, Mondas, Telos, the moon, and trying to remember all the other things. Yeah, Canary Wharf, and all these. I mean,
the planet, yeah.
Yeah, all the planets are the places where he's fought the Cybermen, and he's just like, this is where you all fall, and it's all because of me. And I know I'm butchering whatever that line was, but it's like, so it kind of makes sense. It's like, these are the places where he. And I did back and re-listen to Spare Parts. This past week before the finale, and I didn't catch a mention of a colony ship, but I think there were that like ship left and they ended up with the same kind of technology, so it's like I'm still keeping Spare Parts in the canon because I love it and I don't want to get rid of it.
I think you can.
It's like they're all the same people. They just had different ways of escaping their very, very bad predicament.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but with World Enough in Time, which, if I have any complaints about that episode, it's the episode title. It does not make sense to me. At all.
It's deliberately vague, and I kind of wonder if Moffat did that just to be like, well, titles spoil. So it's the same way of calling an episode "Let's Kill Hitler," and it has nothing to do with Hitler. Yeah, Hitler spends most of the time in the cupboard.
Yeah. I guess that's true, but it's just an odd title. That
it kind of is.
I don't like it, but that's if that's my only complaint, then I guess we're okay.
Yeah.
But finally, finally, after knowing it was coming because it got spoiled, because people can't
Yeah.
keep their mouth shut, we finally got the return of John Sim as the Master, and like it's probably about halfway through the episode, once we had established that Bill was going to be there in the hospital for the long term because of the way time passes on different ends of the ship, and you know, is now like living with this guy who's keeping an eye on her and all that. I'm like, is that the Master in disguise? I think that's the Master in disguise. I'm pretty sure it's the Master in disguise.
I kept looking at him and I kept going back and forth, and I'm like, I think that's John Sim. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not.
Yeah.
And then he comes out and talks to Missy and pulls the mask off. He's like, I was right, even though I waffled a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you got to give props to the makeup department for that.
Yes.
That it was really good prosthetics and all that to make us really question if that was him or not. So.
And, you know, compared to Anthony Ainley's disguises in the classic series, which I know, different time, different levels of technology and special effects and budget. But those ones, it's like you could definitely see through. But that one, having Mr. Razor be the Master in the end, I was like, that was a nice touch. There were just so many nice little callbacks without them feeling shoehorned in. And I love how they just set all that up. Even down to John Sim's costuming when he is the Master and he's got the goatee and he's all in black.
It's like
very dapper.
It's like he raided Ainley and Delgado's closet.
Yeah. Yes. And I remember seeing an interview before the finale that John Sim, like when he originally played the Master during the RTD era, he wanted to have a goatee, but they didn't. They wanted to separate him from the old classic series Masters, so he was very glad he got to have the goatee and pay homage to the originals from way back when. Because I'm like, he looks really good with it.
Yes, he does.
It fits his Master so well.
Yes.
That it does. So, I will have to say with World Enough and Time, brilliantly written, really well paced. Like I was watching it, and it went by so quickly because there doesn't really hit like any slow spots or anything, and then we get to this reveal at the end where he pulls off the thing and it's like the Master, and then like the episode's over and I'm like, wait, what? It's over already? I've only been watching for 5 minutes. So I got sucked in to the story, which is a good sign. That's a sign of a good Doctor Who episode for me.
Oh yeah.
Because I unfortunately it's not that I get bored with Doctor Who, but I have trouble just watching things.
Well, and if an episode doesn't keep your attention, then that's on the episode.
Yeah.
Because it should, a story should, keep you engaged so that you don't feel like you're forcing yourself to sit through it.
Yeah.
And that's, that definitely didn't. That definitely is not what happened here. I mean, I'm with you. It's like, it's over already.
Yeah. And then left on, this big old cliffhanger of, boom, the Master, boom, Bill's a Cyberman.
Yeah. It's like, how are you going to get out of this? And the Doctor, and the Dr. Falls keeps saying, oh, I'm going to fix this. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
Even though, I mean, at first it's like, oh, there's Bill, she's human. Oh, the Doctor did fix it. Wait.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
No.
This is just...
Yeah. So
fake out.
Yeah, and it's funny because the season finale was a 2-parter, so with the first half, I was just so engrossed in everything that, before I knew it, the episode was over. And then you have the second half with the Doctor Falls I was still completely sucked in, but unlike with the first half where it's like kind of nail biting, like, ooh, what's gonna happen? How's the Doctor gonna save Bill and all that? And I know the Master's gonna pop up here someplace. I'm finally gonna see John Simmons' face again. With the Doctor Falls, I was a basket case for probably the second half of the episode. I was so. And a lot of that has to do with some of the things that they set up. Because at the beginning of World Enough in Time, we get that shot of the Doctor stumbling out of the TARDIS, obviously in the middle of regeneration. And it's like, Moffat had already faked us out on regeneration once in the season. I'm like, okay, are they going to fake us out again? Because it's like,
we still have Christmas.
Yeah, so do you really? It's like if you fake out on us twice in the season, that kind of feels like a slap in the face. Like, haha, I get to fool you, Like, well, you guys, you're so gullible. You're gonna fall for this twice, which kind of is insulting, I think, to the audience. But at the same time, it's like if it wasn't a fake out, then one, I would have been really upset because we had this expectation that Capaldi is going to regenerate at Christmas, and therefore we have all this time to kind of mentally and emotionally prepare ourselves going into Christmas. So if he had regenerated before Christmas, one, I would have been really peeved because it would have been such a shock, but at the same time, I almost would have had to applaud Moffat for being able to pull that off. Because in this day and age, even just Sim returning as the Master got spoiled forever ago because people couldn't keep their mouths shut.
It
wasn't.
And by people, we mean the BBC.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like they were filming out in public.
Could you imagine what it would have been?
Yeah.
If we wouldn't have known that?
Yeah. It would have been a great surprise. And if they'd been able to pull off the Doctor regenerating and us getting the new Doctor without anyone knowing about it, I mean, that would have been a feat in this day and age.
It really would have been.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know, I just had this thought that I had not thought about before while you were talking about this, Rachel. About, you'd be upset if, they faked it out and had him regenerate in the middle of the season. And I'm going to go back to the end of this episode where the Doctor is like, no, I'm not going to regenerate. I don't want to change, and I'm not going to do it. And it's like all season, well, not all season, but at different points this season, he has played fast and loose with his regeneration energy. Like he faked out Bill in, there was that bit where in Pyramid at the end of the world where he was all like, where we thought, he's going to get radiation poisoning and die, and and all these different moments where he's done that, and now it's like, well, you were goofing off with it before, and now it's actually happening, so now you have to face consequences for real this time. So it's kind of like, it's not like, I don't want to say that he brought it on himself, because that's not quite what happened, but it's sort of like, he played around with it before, but now it's actually facing him, and he's like, oh, I really don't want to do this. And I'm going to be stubborn and not do it at all. And he pushes back the energy, because he's like, because this, for whatever reason, this version of the Doctor has been able to control the regeneration energy. And not even just this season, like he did a little bit with Davros. And that one time. Yeah. He's kind of able to turn it off and on, and now he's like trying to turn it off for good. Yeah. So I'm like, huh. that's a thing that happened.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm just like putting that together in my mind all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Or unless if this is some special side effect from when he got the reload on the
Yeah, because I mean the fact that
regenerations, who knows?
he regenerated into this incarnation of the Doctor only because the Time Lords gave him a whole new regeneration cycle, and what that means compared to just being, a Time Lord who, grows up, goes to the academy and all that, and then lives their life going through their regeneration cycle till they get to the end. The fact that these regenerations were gifted to him by the Time Lords that may have other stipulations or abilities or whatever that go with it.
And then Clara asking for it as well, so who knows, with her being an impossible girl, her asking for it as well doesn't have something to play with it too. I mean, guess is as good as mine here.
Yeah. There's all kinds of openings for weird, bizarre things to happen with this, because it kind of feels like they've rewritten the rules with regeneration, with this whole big, here, you have a whole new set.
Yeah.
Don't spend it all in one place.
Yeah.
Right. Well, just like with, we were all thinking, hey, Gallifrey's gone. Oh, yeah, but not as in destroyed, hiding in a painting.
Yes.
You know, so that kind of got rewritten too. I mean, I love that idea. Don't get me wrong. It's just change this, change that. You know, kind of to paraphrase Star Wars here. You know, certain point of view.
Yeah.
And with Doctor Who, you can play fast and loose with the continuity all you want. I mean, that's
exactly.
How they've kind of been making it up as they go along for 50 years.
And
some of the ideas stick, and some of them don't, for whatever reason. But anyway, I just had that thought.
Yeah.
And speaking of regeneration, I do not buy for 1 second that the Master is gone for good.
Oh, no.
I know. I mean, how many times has the Master escaped and come back to, hi?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I told Holly this, too, after we were chatting, after watching the episode, and you asked me that, Holly, and I was like, well, when Missy and the Master are talking, and the Master's like, so, I turned into a woman next. And Missy's like, well, I'm not sure. I'm kind of vague on the whole regeneration thing. That leaves it open for potentially at least one incarnation, if not multiples, between Sim and Missy.
Because you don't know how far down the time stream Missy is.
Exactly.
That is true.
Exactly. So.
And everybody's assuming that John Sim, that Master regenerates into Missy. It's like, well, no, we didn't actually see that happen.
Yeah, exactly. Like
right.
we, for however many years, 8 years, that we thought that Eccleston's Doctor was the one that participated in the Time War. Until we got the 50th anniversary special and find out, no, it's actually John Hurt's Doctor. And Paul McGann's Doctor, to a point, were the ones that actually participated in the time. We just assume it was Paul McGann, Christopher Eccleston. Nope, there's an incarnation there in between. So
and the Master. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Chrissy. Go ahead. Finish.
I was just gonna say the Master's regeneration cycle isn't quite as cut and dry, because after Delgado, there was Crispy Master, and it's kind of like, how many did he burn through? Between that and then, spoilers, Keith. When the Master takes over, I can't remember his name, but he's Nissa's father.
Yeah.
And he has to take over a new body because he's out of regenerations, and it's like, well, we've only really seen 3 versions of the Master, so what happened to all those other regenerations beforehand?
Yeah. Well, and then we
joke about the Doctor going through regenerations like tissue paper.
Yeah. Well, and then it's Ainley's Doctor that gets granted new regenerations too in the 20th anniversary.
I think
the
5 Doctors.
5 Doctors give the Master a new set of regeneration, or the Time Lords offer it to him. I don't know if they ever got it, but it's not to say he couldn't have gotten it somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Master's timeline's a little more muddled.
Yeah.
Well, and then too, I'm thinking of the ring. Because remember, at the end, we get that Flash Gordon-like ending where somebody picked up the Master's ring that he was wearing. Mm-hmm. That's still MIA.
Yeah.
So who knows? That might come back to play.
Well,
I don't know.
Did they use that to resurrect him and end of time? But then
there wasn't.
I can't remember.
They used the ring, and then they picked it up at the end. I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've seen it.
I can't remember now. But yeah, so like it's. Although I am glad that they established that John Sims' Master is after he's been on Gallifrey and then he left.
Yeah.
So he's not.
We're
not trying to figure out. Well, where in the middle are we?
Yeah. This was after
because we're not in the middle.
This is after he got carted off with Rassilon and that lot.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
There's a little more wiggle room to play with, which I'm fine with.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So.
But yeah, and then this is do we want to discuss the Sims how did I think in my feedback to the guys I put the word interest in Missy?
Yeah.
The Master is the ultimate narcissist. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's true.
He has his own personal self-adoration club. Yeah.
Yes. And anyone, if you want to ship the Master with anybody, ship the Master with the Master.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might want to, I don't know, Christy, if you checked our spoiler chat, but there was a link that I have posted that I think Moffat was kind of basically trolling.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that ending.
I read that
on that's not an alternate ending. Yeah. That's clickbait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Digital Spy, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even going to acknowledge that with the
grain of salt, but it's like, yeah.
Like,
that one doesn't even get the benefit of a grain of salt. That one's getting tossed out
in the garbage. Yeah.
Well, I couldn't remember how reputable Digital Spy was. It's like,
usually they are, and I think they're just looking for some content to put up somewhere because everyone is rightfully losing their minds over the finale, and it's like, here, let's add fuel to the fire, and it's like, really, guys?
Yeah. Like, we're gonna do that.
Digital Spy's fine. Usually, it's just I think this one, it's like, guys, no.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
Yeah. Although I did like how Missy was really quick to turn that down. Like, no, that's not a thing we're doing. Stop. So
yes.
Although then they did proceed to kill each other, which is that murder or suicide?
Yeah.
So many ethical questions when you're talking about Time Lords and
they're both laughing about it.
Yeah.
Yes. That almost makes it like, okay, yeah, it's tragic that I'm sad that Missy's gone, but the fact, how it happened and kind of the humor around it almost.
Or are they both laughing because they both have a secret backup plan that neither of them knows about? This is like, you don't know what I got planned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is funny because one is a previous version of the Master, so I mean, I know how the memory wipe thing kind of works with Time Lords, only not really. But it's like they don't know, but they should. Mm-hmm. And they're you're trying to outsmart yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you really think hard about it, but it's just I don't know. It's just it was. I will say this. It was just so much fun watching the two of them just bounce off each other.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I was like,
I could have had more scenes with them. I wouldn't mind a little mini spin-off series, Missy and the Master.
Yeah.
Let's see how much chaos we can create.
Exactly. I'm like, I want more of these two. I mean, we're probably not going to get it just because of, how it ended, but gosh, that was
Big
just
Finish.
so
If you do decide to go this, could you kind of give kudos?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, please. Because, oh my gosh, they were just, I mean, I think you need the Doctor just kind of off to the side to kind of, keep the animosity going a little bit and fuel that, but those two, Michelle Gomez and John Stim, were just so I want to say delicious to watch.
Yes.
Yes.
Like I want more of this.
And then speaking of the Doctor with both of them, I mean that speech that gave them. Oh my gosh! Oh, goosebump chills. It was just like
they keep giving Capaldi all these great speeches for the Doctor to say, and this one it's not like he's grandstanding and saying I am the Doctor and I'm this great wonderful thing gonna save everybody.
Time Lord Victorious at all.
Yeah, this is Time Lord Victorious. This is I'm trying my best over here. I'm probably not gonna succeed, and it's never gonna work, but I'm gonna do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. And it's just kind of like, yeah, I feel that way sometimes.
Yeah.
And both Missy and the Master were just kind of quiet. They didn't really say anything. They were just like, oh,
yeah.
I never looked at it that way before. He might have a point.
Yeah. Well, I think Missy more than the Master, but the Master kind of got it too. He's like, okay, well, yes, I'm kind of a jerk, but I'm an unrepentant jerk. And Missy's like, I need to do better. I know, and she does.
Yep. She tried.
Yeah,
we can give her that. I mean, like I said earlier, she. In the end, she did decide to do the right thing. She just wasn't able to do it because she literally got shot in the back.
Yeah.
That was after she literally stabbed herself in the back, so in a way. But I mean, she was trying to do the right thing, even if she didn't succeed. Which, considering how everything fell after that, I don't know how much help she would have been. Just because the Doctor's plan was to just, blow everything up like he does. So, yeah, he sent Nardole off, which, kudos to Matt Lucas for, they gave Nardole, a send-off, a good send-off, all things considering. Even though kind of Nardole's future is kind of bleak, actually, because what they've really done is they've just bought him some time before the Cybermen regroup.
Yeah, well, it even says, the Doctor blew up most of the Cybermen, but not all.
Yeah.
So, at some point, I mean, he's got several years still, but it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
And maybe there'll be like a mini episode explaining what happens, or Big Finish. Jared just walked in. He's giving me suggestions of Big Finish could do something for Nardole. It's like, they're doing all this new series stuff.
Yeah. That's a possibility. So,
I mean, and Pearl Mackie, man, her scenes in this last episode with Bill. Oh, I was almost in tears when the little girl handed her that mirror and not realizing, it was like, oh, dear.
I like when she opened she unwrapped the bundle and you see the back, and I'm like, oh, that's a mirror, isn't it? It's a mirror. It's a mirror. Dang it! I thought the Doctor actually uncybermanned her, but
I love that they did that, though, that they, and they explained it too, that, Bill's brain is trying to fight the conversion. And so therefore she's seeing herself as Bill, not as a Cyberman, which totally works in universe, but also allowed us to get that amazing performance from Pearl Mackie. Not, you know,
it's like
and not the Cyberman voice and the face being covered and all that.
Yeah, I wondered after, you know, between the two parts of the story, I was like, okay, so is Pearl Mackie gone? Like, are we not going to see her again? And then you see her in the barn, and it's like, oh, she's fine. The doctor cured her. No, not really. And it's weird because everybody, you know, because the lady from the house and then the little girl are scared of her. And it's like, but it's just Bill. Like, what's wrong? Oh, that's what's going on. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I like that they did that because it kept. I mean, you know, as you know, you go back to the series 2 with the Rise of the Cybermen, and they had that one scene with the Cyberman lady where she's talking about, you know, she's getting married, and you know, she doesn't want her fiance to see her before the ceremony, and it's like, that's a gut punch. But then we fast forward to now, and we have Bill, you know, seeing herself as a Cyberman, and she's, you know, yelling at the doctor, and you know, you left me for 10 years, I waited, and all these different things, and you know, and she's trying to be, you know, she kind of accepts what's happened to her, but it's not easy for her to see the people, like, you know, shy away from her.
She almost had,
you know,
to
she was
through,
even being real stoic too when the master was kind of jabbing her.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then the doctor's just like, don't let him get to you. And she's like, I'm not angry, but then when we get the shot of her, you can see her lip trembling. But, you know, it's like, oh, sweetheart. Yeah. But I think, too, she was also trying to keep her anger under control because I don't know if I were in her situation, I might have turned on my Cyberman laser beam and shot one right at the master.
Yeah.
There's only so much I can take, but you just got on my last nerve.
Yeah. And like,
so I think that was her trying to fight too.
And it's kind of like, it's easy to say, you know, oh, how dare these little villagers, you know, treat Bill like that. And I'm like, but I can't blame them.
No.
For their reaction, because they've had the Cybermen coming after them, and so
and taking the children,
and taking the kids, and you know, so of course they're going to be afraid of this person that looks like this creature that's been terrorizing them for so many years.
They don't know if it's a facade. Like, okay, we're going to pretend to be this nice, and then we're going to turn and, hey, your kids are gone. Yeah, so I can exactly see where the villagers are coming from.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to like it, but it's like, that's reality. And I just, the whole time I'm like, oh, I don't want Bill to feel this way, but at the same time, you kind of can't blame them. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the fact that the lady and the girl actually came and tried to talk to her, even though they were both scared out of their wits by the sight of her, like, speaks highly of them, saying, okay, we'll trust the doctor that he says you're not
even
dangerous.
The girl too, she felt so bad
when
she gave Bill that mirror. She's like, but I didn't mean anything. It's like, it's all right, but you could tell that it affected her.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's no good answer here. But, you know, and in the end, Bill did get her. She's off.
Yeah.
She's with Star
Heather.
Having their adventures.
I expected Heather to return.
A little bit better. So. I honestly didn't think about it until because we didn't get to see the episode till last night. We went over to Jared's mom and dad's for dinner, for Sunday dinner. Like, oh, lady caught up, and you know, we just kind of like, well, let's make a little viewing party of it. Before we left for dinner, Jared's like, you know, I bet the star-eyed girl comes back, and I was like, I hadn't thought of it. And I was like, well, we'll see if you're right. And he was right.
And I didn't really pick up on it that she was coming back till the second watch through when the doctor mentioned something like, you got liquid coming from your eyes, but it's not the machine oil or whatever.
Yeah, it shouldn't be able to cry.
It's actual water. Yeah.
It shouldn't be physically possible.
I took that as, she's still human enough that she can cry still. I mean, I don't know how that works mechanically or biologically, but
yeah,
I was like, she's still in there. She's fighting.
Yeah, I mean, either way, Bill still fought to hold on to what humanity she had left, and that's what helped the Doctor for his final stand against the Cybermen. He wouldn't have been able. I don't think he would have been nearly as successful if it hadn't been for Bill. There to help him, because she was, she fought the conversion and was able to help him. And it just, it happened that Heather was able to come along and help Bill, and therefore help the Doctor, because, the Doctor goes on that final, he's running through the field and he's blasting Cybermen, and he's, Mondas and, 10th Planet and all these things, and he sets off that big final explosion, and, but he gets shot, by a Cyberman at the, and Bill, the ground's just been decimated, all the trees are gone, but all the Cybermen are gone, and the Doctor's, laying there on the ground, and Bill comes across him, and at that point I'm getting emotional now just thinking about it. Like, I was gone by then. I was in tears.
Well, it brought back memories of the dark water in that, when Danny comes back to help with Clara.
But even
the
then,
brig, it was just like,
even then, that made me emotional, especially when the brig, he finally gets the Doctor finally salutes the Brigadier. I'm like, feels, and like the 50th anniversary special, every time Tom Baker appears, you hear his voice at the end as the curator, and I'm like, oh, Tom, but like that, I get kind of choked up, a little verklempt. This, I was just bawling, absolutely bawling, because I think at that point I was kind of convinced that Capaldi was going to regenerate in this episode, and I was not prepared to say goodbye to this Doctor, and Heather is able to take her ability as this alien life form, as the pilot, and rearrange Bill's molecules, essentially, so that she's no longer a Cyberman, but she's not human anymore. But she gets to be with Heather and kind of be the same species, and now she has the same ability, and therefore she's able to, because at that point the Doctor's dead or in a coma or something, we're not entirely sure. Bill assumes that he's dead and he just didn't regenerate. And just a single tear from Bill, now that she's this new species, is enough to kind of, at least make the Doctor not dead, but not free from regeneration either. And then she and Heather take off, and the regeneration sequence starts, and he's fighting it, and he's doing, he's quoting past incarnations. We get the montage of the previous companions, and I'm like, oh no, it's everything that we expect from a regeneration episode. It's the callbacks to previous incarnations, it's references to previous companions, it's a lot of the times the Doctor fighting the regeneration. There's been a few times where he's accepted it. The Doctor tends to fight regeneration. So it's like all the check boxes were being checked off for this being a regeneration episode. So I'm like, absolutely, I'm not quite hysterical, but like, I have not cried this hard for Doctor Who episode since Doomsday. And I don't even think I cried that hard for Doomsday. This was even worse. So it's like, the TARDIS takes him, and they land on what is presumably the 10th planet. That's what everyone's assuming, that this is essentially, this is the time that the first Doctor kind of disappears because Hartnell was actually ill.
Yeah.
And people are kind of assuming this is that missing period where we don't see the Doctor in the 10th planet, or we'll find out at Christmas, but, he's still fighting the regeneration there in the snow, and, the first Doctor appears, and I'm like, he's not going to regenerate, and I'm like, suddenly I'm overjoyed and elated and so relieved, but at the same time, I was so upset that
we have to go through it again at Christmas.
Well, but the two emotions were, like, fighting each other, so I'm, like, crying and laughing all at the same time.
Well, and this is kind of my theory about the whole thing, is because the Doctor got shot early on in this episode, so he's been kind of fighting off the regeneration for so long, and then he has that little temper tantrum in the TARDIS, like, no, I'm not going to do it, and he stumbles out into the snow, and so like his regeneration has already started, and I kind of feel like I got, like, when the first Doctor walked out, I don't know why, but I got a vibe of It's a Wonderful Life. That the first Doctor is going to help the 12th Doctor accept his regeneration.
So the first Doctor is Clarence.
Yeah, pretty much.
Should be good.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not a perfect analog, but it's kind of like, okay, so rather than we're talking George Bailey out of committing suicide, this is the first Doctor talking the 12th Doctor into accepting his regeneration. Like, it's okay. This is part of, Time Lord life, I suppose. And you've done all these great things, or something like that. I don't know, but that's just kind of what I feel like is going to happen. And the Doctor is going to be his own companion at Christmas, and it just makes me so happy.
Yeah.
this premise that they're setting up, and maybe it's because I loved David Bradley as William Hartnell in Adventure in Space and Time, and I even at the time I thought, oh, it would be so cool to have him, be the first Doctor in an episode, but didn't think it was actually going to happen.
Yeah.
And now it's happening, so I'm like, yay.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm excited to see, and maybe this is how we maybe this is so we're not so maybe we get the emotional gut punch now, and then at Christmas it's acceptance is what we get.
Yeah, at least between now and Christmas, it's like now I can kind of mentally and emotionally, I'm sure I'm probably still gonna cry quite a bit. I mean, at every regeneration, regardless of how you feel about that particular Doctor, is it's emotional. The changing of the guard and all that, but some Doctors people are more connected to and love more than others, and in my case, Capaldi. At this point, I'm pretty sure Capaldi. I say pretty sure. I know Capaldi is my favorite new era Doctor.
Oh yeah.
So for him to be leaving, it's like, yeah, I know now. I understand how people felt, when David Tennant regenerated and Matt Smith regenerated. I was sad to see them go, but I didn't love them enough to be that upset. This time, I am really genuinely upset that Capaldi's leaving.
What? It's funny you say that, because when we were driving home last night, we were kind of talking about the episode and different things we liked and stuff, and I was just sitting here going, like, I am not looking forward to Capaldi leaving, and I am actually really nervous about this next transition. I mean, I've been a fan of this show. I mean, I didn't grow up with it, but but I've been a fan of the show for several years, and I've been through a couple of these transitions, and to me, it's just like, well, that's just part of the show, like when Matt Smith regenerated. But I think it goes back to when they first announced Peter Capaldi that he was going to take over after Matt Smith. And I just remember feeling so excited and just so happy that it was him, that he was, and I didn't really know much about him. I just kind of had this gut feeling of he's going to be amazing. And he has been. And he has been one of my favorites. And, you know, if
just
not...
in that interview when they did the grand announcement, it's like, okay, I feel comfortable with you. Let's bring it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not ready for him to go. I don't want him to leave. I'm like, you could do another season. Come on. Yeah. But, you know, I mean, it's, you know, and he's... I don't want him to leave. I'm right there with the Doctor saying, no, don't change, never again. You're going to be Peter Capaldi for the rest of forever.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, as long as you are able, physically able to do this part, you should do this part.
Yeah.
And I just,
unfortunately, that's part of it. I mean, he wants to go out on a high note, which, you know, this is definitely that. I mean, obviously we saw the Christmas special, but his Doctor is definitely going out on a high note, but unfortunately,
this is true.
The physical aspect of it, too, also has something to do with it. Playing the Doctor
I know. I'm just...
is very physically demanding. Even Matt Smith, when he was the youngest person to ever play the Doctor, after a season or two, he started having knee issues.
I mean, and I understand all that, and there's, you know, there's the reality of it. I just...
You don't want to accept it.
I'm gonna miss him so much.
Yeah.
And him, and maybe even, and Moffat. As much as I've had my issues with Moffat this season, I'm gonna miss them both. Yeah. And I was sad when Matt Smith left, but I did not feel this sad.
Yeah.
And I'm really nervous about how this next era is gonna go, and I don't really know why I'm nervous. I just am. I can't explain it, but it's
there's so many unknowns. It's like, but you know, when Chris left, we still had Rose as the companion. When David left, we also had the changing from RTV to Moffat, but you know, there were still some things there that kind of helped bridge.
We still had a familiar face.
We still kind of
help bridge the gap.
Yeah.
This time we're not going to.
This time, I mean, we're wiping the board completely. We're new Doctor, new companion, new showrunner. So to start over that fresh is scary.
Yeah.
It's very scary. And especially at this point, because we have no idea who the heck the new Doctor's going to be.
Yeah. And I think... And I kind of wonder if, like, when Moffat took over, it's kind of like, well, he's written some really good stories, so I think he'll be okay. Chris Chibnall, he's done some good stuff, and he's done some stinkers. So I'm a little bit like... And you know, and he has done Broadchurch, and I watched the first season of that, and I really liked it. Although I didn't have any desire to watch anything after the first season because it was just so emotionally draining. But it's just kind of like I don't know what you're gonna do. I'm sure it's gonna be fine. I'm just being neurotic and apprehensive.
Yeah.
And just I don't want Capaldi to leave. I will repeat that, and I understand about, you know, the physical limitations, and he probably wants to go on and do other things and not be the Doctor forever and ever, but it's just like, you've been so good.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna miss you. And I will probably... I didn't cry at this episode, but probably at Christmas I will bawl like a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Big Finish, sign him pronto.
Yes. Please.
Yes, get him on Big Finish. Do it. You guys are getting new series rights. Come on.
I'm gonna tweet Nicholas Briggs right now, please.
Yes, the minute Capaldi walks off that set the last time, Nicholas Briggs better be giving him a phone call.
Yes. Make it happen. Do the thing.
He has to sign some paperwork and, you know, pull a radar. Sign here, sign here. Well, what's this? Oh, nothing. Just your contract for Big Finish Audios. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. It's like, you'll be fine.
Yes.
Just sign on the dotted line, Peter, and it'll all be hunky-dory. Yeah.
Yeah, and this won't break your knees.
Exactly.
You don't have to run. You just pretend to run.
So yeah. I think the Christmas special will be amazing. You know,
it will.
the David Bradley, I think, is going to be fabulous playing the first Doctor for real this time. Before he was playing William Hartnell playing the first Doctor. To actually be the first Doctor, I think is brilliant. And, if, for this being Moffat's, last go, his very last episode ever, can you fault him for doing a multi-Doctor story, and second, bringing back the very first Doctor?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
That's. Although I'm gonna throw this suggestion out there to the Vortex boys. I don't know if Sean listens to us. I may have to tweet this at him. But I kind of my suggestion for Friday Night Who before the Christmas special. Let's watch an adventure in space and time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think we need that.
Yeah. Well.
You guys can have that one for free.
Yep. I like it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I asked Jared last night if he'd seen that one. He said he hadn't. I'm just like, I need to show it to you.
Hold on, let me show you. Sit down right here.
Like, come here, we'll pop some popcorn. You need to watch this thing.
Yes. That's like, I'm excited for Christmas just to see the first Doctor and to get a multi-Doctor story, but at the same time, it's like, Christmas, don't get here too soon. Don't get here too soon.
Yeah.
Do you think the first Doctor is going to be the only Doctor that we're going to see, or do you think that there might be a couple more hidden surprises that we don't know about yet?
I mean, it won't. It'll be like, there's that scene in Time of the Doctor. No.
Or was it Name of the Doctor?
Name of the Doctor. It's like, it was one of those of the Doctors that, where Clara falls in his timeline, and they have the fake stand-ins running back and forth in the Doctor's mind space. I kind of wonder if they'll do something like that, maybe, and showing the Doctor. Although now that I think about it, maybe it's the other way around. Maybe it's the first Doctor refusing to regenerate, and the 12th Doctor has to say, but look at all the things that you have to look forward to, or something.
Ooh,
maybe
that would be it.
And so you see little bits of the classic series, or moments where they kind of have, what's it called, the fake shemp of the different Doctors going back and forth and doing their thing. I don't know. They could make it work.
Yeah. I don't know about other incarnations of the Doctor. I would love if they could figure out some way to bring Carol in forward.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I mean, obviously at this point, Susan's no longer traveling with that incarnation of the Doctor. But
yes.
I would love to see if they could figure out a way to bring Carol in forward.
They had her picture in the Doctor's office in the pilot.
Exactly, and I wonder if that's not a hint.
Ooh, I like this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Moffat, you can have that one for free.
Yep.
He's probably thought about it, I'm sure. I have seen rumors that Jenna Coleman is going to come back.
I've seen that rumor too.
Yeah, they might do an Amy Pond thing with her.
Yeah,
it kind of seems to be the thing with the Doctors is, the first companion of that Doctor comes back for the regeneration story for a brief cameo. Which, sure.
Yeah, but I still want Carol Ann Ford.
Well, yes, like why not both?
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see.
Oh, and that just reminded me of something where in this, where how Jenna Coleman's playing Queen Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
And,
oh yes,
and we had that episode where so Jenna Coleman's in this playing she's the queen in this universe, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably not quite the right time period, but I kept thinking about that when I watched that episode. I forgot to mention it before. Oh goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, so many feels.
Yeah, so many feels.
As up stuck the landing at the finale, and that's really all you
sure
asked for. They did it. They did it. So
yeah.
All they have left is Christmas, and then we're out of here.
Yeah.
Well,
to new uncharted territory.
Yes. You did good, Moffat. You did good.
Yeah.
And if you, dear listener, want to participate in the Feels Fest over here, and send in your feedback about what you thought of any aspect of this season of Doctor Who, the finale, the beginning, the middle, whatever, or what you think is going to happen at Christmas time, we will gladly love to hear what you have to say about that. That sentence was really weird. I'm sorry for that. You can send us feedback with your thoughts at our email address is fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also visit us at our website, which is thefiveishfangirls.com. And our website has links to all of our social media stuff, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We also have a YouTube channel, which this podcast gets posted there every week. We also have iTunes and Stitcher Radio and the Google Play Store. Those are all places you can download and rank and review us. I think you can rate us on some of those others. Anyway, so you can do that as well. We also have a Patreon account that you can support us financially, and then also we're, as alluded to earlier, we're doing a charity drive with the Fangirls Give Back, so you can also donate to that through our Patreon account as well. And as always, we thank our Patreon supporters. You guys rock. Someday I'd love to be able to give you all a hug or a high five or a fist bump for being so supportive of what we've been doing here, because it's fun. And you guys make it fun with all your interactions and things. And then also you can support us through our Amazon store, also found on our website. You buy what you need from Amazon through our store. We get a small cut of that. You don't pay anything extra. And everybody wins, and warm fuzzies all the way around. So, love you guys.
Yeah.
Hugs.
Hugs, fist bumps, and warm fuzzies all around.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that, goodness.
And for all of our American listeners celebrating 4th of July this week, be safe out there.
Yep.
And
enjoy.
Belated Happy Canada Day to our neighbors to the north.
Yep.
That too.
Yep. Yeah.
So.
Good times, and we'll be back next week with my recap of PopCon, assuming I survive.
Oh, you will. And if any of our listeners are going to PopCon and want to chime in with their experiences there, we'll take that feedback as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. So with that, I think we shall sign off for this week.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. I got through the show without crying. Yay me!
Good job.
I guess we'll start with introduce yourself.
I'm Joe Green, con chair for InConJunction 37, a member of Circle of Janus, which is the group that sponsors and runs InConJunction. We elect a new con chair every year for 2 years out.
Okay.
So currently, I was elected 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they thought I was good enough to do this. I'm still not sure. Next year, we have Becky Marjadant is going to be the con chair, and the year after that is John Belden, who's already been elected for that.
Oh, okay. So, I guess not only for myself, because this is actually my only second time me attending InConJunction. I attended for part of a day 10 years ago, something like that. So, but this is a long-running convention. But I guess for our listeners that aren't familiar with it, give us a short, history of the convention.
Well, I can give you a short history because even I haven't been around as long as the convention. InConJunction started in 1980. As a small fan-run convention. It has been running every year since then, so this is its 37th year. It is a science fiction and fantasy convention. Now, that's a slight change from... I think it started out as a science fiction fantasy literature convention.
Okay.
which is because the Circle of Janus is a science fiction, fantasy, literary group.
Okay.
But we've also always considered other media as well. You know, the radio, podcasts, movies, TV, etc. Mm-hmm. But the focus has been literary.
Okay.
We do a charity auction. We donate to 2 charities every year. One of those is always a local Indiana literacy organization. Currently, it's Indie Reads. The other one is chosen by the con chair for that year, based upon their theme and whatever criteria that con chair uses for picking their charity. I picked the Indiana Raptor Society because they do raptor rehab, which is something which is near and dear to my author and artist guests of honor, as they did raptor rehab for many years.
Okay. So besides the charitable aspect, or I guess on top of the charitable aspect, for someone that is maybe going to hear this and thinks, oh, maybe I want to attend that next year, kind of give people an idea of the kind of things that they can expect to find at this particular convention.
Almost everything. I say that jokingly because, of course, obviously that would take up way more space than we have.
Yes.
But we make a valiant effort. We have 136 programming events this year.
Wow.
We try and fill up 5 rooms of programming activities, at least from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m., and then we try and fill as much as we can even beyond that. We have a round-the-clock independent film video room and or anime room. This year they got combined due to things happen in the world.
Yes.
But we also have a Doctor Who room run by the Hoosier Network, which is an Indiana-based Doctor Who fan group.
Yep.
We have the Royal Manicoran Navy represented. They're the official Honorverse fan club, which is David Weber's a science fiction author, and he writes the Honorverse series. It's a very large series. It's very well liked. It has fans who are true fans. Anytime you can get civilians dressing up as military, you got some pretty true fans there. And I, by the way, I'm a member of that group, among others. We have panels this year. We have DIY panels. Right now, Michelle Musonia, who's our cosplay guest of honor this year, is doing a panel on how to work with Warbla to make, plastic molded parts
armor
for cosplay and stuff. Armor and props and the whole gamut. She's incredible.
Yes.
I'm talented. She's incredible.
Yeah. Cosplay goals.
Yeah. All I can say is aliens loader. Among other things, we've got a gaming room. We've got lots of gaming. In our gaming room, we have Starship Bridge Sims, which is sponsored and run by Miss Brigade this year, and most years because, I may be con chair, but I'm also the guy that owns Miss Brigade, and is kind of, which all we do is take my toys out and let people play with them. But it's a Starship Bridge sim game, so it's a crew operating a ship like a Star Trek crew, rather than one of those sit-down games where you can't do it. You do it all by yourself.
Yeah.
It's a lot more varied. We've got prop making, cosplay, construction. We've got filming. We've got Demetrius, DV Entertainment and Demetrius Witherspoon releasing their Echo 51. They did their premiere on Thursday. They are here when we get to do the first screening of their movie at a convention this afternoon at 1 o'clock. Anything anyone's willing to present on we can tie into science fiction and fantasy, we'll let them come do it. We'll give them space, give them a forum to present anything.
Yeah.
So we really, and like I said, 136 events over the weekend, and that doesn't include the gaming stuff. We have a 24-hour gaming room.
Yeah.
The video room, like you said, it's also 24-hour. The Doctor Who room runs all but a couple hours a day. I mean, it's we keep for a $50 weekend pass. If you don't get at least 20 hours of programming out of that, you weren't trying.
Yeah. You slept or something.
Our biggest programming complaint year over year for the last several years has been there were too many things to do. I couldn't do them all because too many things I wanted to do are scheduled at the same time.
Yeah.
Which to me is the biggest compliment you can pay a programming person.
Yeah.
So that's we really do. We try and cover a little bit of everything.
Okay. Yeah, you have on top of you have other special guests too. Obviously, you've got Michelle as your cosplay guest of honor, but you have several other guests of honors, and we had 6
guests of honor this year.
Yeah.
We had a science guest of honor, who is a local scientist in the biomedical field. We have Mogshell for cosplay. Yeah. We have Mark Gunn, the Celtic godfather, as they call him. And we have Shauna Bedford, who is the heroine in the Echo 51 movie that we've got DV Entertainment here for. Yeah. We brought her up because although she's from Indiana originally, she now lives in Florida, so we brought her back up. And then last, but oh my God, nowhere near least, we have Mercedes Lackey and Larry Dixon, who are my favorite authors in the world. I'm not an easy person to impress, and they're the only people I've ever met that impressed me enough to actually go fanboy.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I was actually looking, when you look at the guest list and the folks that you have, it's most conventions, they get authors, artists, but usually, there's some sort of celebrity, and I think it's actually kind of refreshing that you guys don't necessarily focus on bringing in like someone from TV who's a big name, that you're focusing more on people that are probably well known in their given fields, but not maybe necessarily someone, if you name drop them, people will be like, oh, who that person?
Well, Mercedes is probably one of the biggest ones we've had in a while. We strive to support the literacy, but also the independent maker, the independent content creator. DV Entertainment is an Indiana local. I mean, their movie that we're screening, I think it's about a 30-minute movie. It was filmed, all the post-production, everything was all done in Indianapolis. That's every bit of it. So it's completely local, independent film. We do a lot with independent music. We had some folks who we got Tom Smith come down. He's for those who don't know him, he's big in Filk, but he doesn't, he's not hooked up with any big record label. Right. He's an independent artist. Yeah. So we really try and support the independent community. But it does actually give us the freedom to actually cover so much more because of that. Yeah. From my personal opinion, and experience, I found that when you work with the independent community, you get so much broader variety of skills and interests and knowledge, and it's really impressive. It really is.
I guess that's about it. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I guess let people know where they can find information on if they want to plan to come to next year's event.
We have InConJunction.org, but we also have our Facebook page and our Twitter feed, InConJunction. It's spelled like it sounds. Yeah. It's InConJunction Science Fiction and Fantasy Convention.
Okay.
for us on, like I said, Facebook, Twitter, and we do have InConJunction.org. And if you want to contribute, if you want to come present and do stuff at InConJunction, go to InConJunction.org. Yeah, I know the website looks a little old-fashioned, but we're an all-volunteer organization. It does function. And if you have any problems, email the webmaster and we'll help you out. Sign up. Come, not just see panels, but do panels.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you.
If you wanted to, it's up to you.
Yeah.
It's your show. I'm not going to tell you how to run your show.
Thanks. No, really, please tell me how to run my show. I have no idea what I'm doing.
I'm sure you get that enough.
All right, well, let's start with the easy bit. Introductions. Tell us who you are.
I'm Tammy Jo Eckhart. I'm an author, a historian, and a chocolate lover.
Those are three very good things, especially the last one, because you have chocolate on your table. I may have to grab something.
That's why it's here.
I need dessert. I had lunch. I need dessert. Anyway, okay, so you're an author. Give our listeners an idea of what type of, literature you write.
I write what I call edgy fiction, meaning that I'm not genre specific. Okay. So if I have a story idea and it would work well as science fiction or horror or historical fiction or contemporary or fantasy or something entirely different, that's what I write the story in.
Okay.
I call it edgy because I will put in as much sex and violence as I feel I need to tell the story.
Okay.
But I won't put in any more.
Okay.
I'm published by mostly small presses. I do have an agent. She's trying to sell a new series and a vampire book. Moving into the big five it's a struggle. That's why you get an agent. But a lot of my smaller presses, they classify what I do as erotica. And I don't really think of it as that because when I'm writing the story, I'm not thinking I want to turn someone on. I'm thinking, oh, I have this story idea and it makes sense for these characters to have sex or not.
Yeah.
And there have been times, such as in this book, Women of the Bite, the editor actually approached me. She heard I was working on some vampire stuff and said, I'm putting out an anthology. Do you have anything? And I said, well, yeah, one of the stories in my book is like this. And I gave it to her, and she wrote back, and she goes, I love it. It's beautiful, but there's actually no sex in it. So I'm thinking, can we just at this one point, and she had to call me on the phone and talk to me a couple times to convince me. And, because it had to make sense to me.
Right.
It had to feel real.
Right.
I mean, even if I'm dealing with vampires or something in the 25th century, I want my reader to feel like it's possible.
Yeah.
Even if not probable.
Right. Yeah. Which I totally get that. It's funny considering our most recent episode, we just discussed Game of Thrones. And one of the big talking points about the show and why some of us watch it and some of my co-hosts have tried it and kind of gave up and it wasn't their cup of tea is the sex and the violence and how some people think it's very gratuitous. And then in my case, I was like, it serves a point a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think it has to have a point. It's just like if my characters are doing something and they see something out in the world, like a cat.
Yeah.
I want there a reason for that cat to be there.
Right.
Now, the cat might not show up for chapters later.
Right.
But there's got to be a reason. And I think as people get more and more into self-publishing and online publishing, we're kind of losing the rules of storytelling.
Yeah.
And so I try to keep those rules in my mind. I've been very good. I've mostly worked with a place called Circulate Press.
Okay.
And they very much are interested in the craft of storytelling. And my husband, he's my beta reader, and he's very much into, he'll say like, well, why is this here?
Yeah.
What's the point? And sometimes if he's reading chapter by chapter and I'm writing a novel, I'll say, well, that's going to come in later.
Right.
He makes a note, and if it isn't there, I get called on it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of need that second set of eyes but I do want the story to come first and foremost.
Yeah.
Some people are kind of hesitant with my work because they think they've heard that it's that type of work.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll say, I don't read that sort of thing, and it'll be, so you don't read fantasy, sci-fi, or horror, why are you at this convention?
Yeah.
It's more like, I think people should give it a try, and it very well could be not your thing, but I've had so many people just try it and then come back and say, like, wow, that was a really interesting story, that was a really good characters. I think the most common question I get is, are you a historian or a sociologist? Because my world crafting is such that I'm not like really, really tiny little details, but it seems realistic.
Yeah.
And the answer is, I'm an ancient historian. And I've taught everywhere through World War II. So I use that when I create worlds. What is it likely? Because communities are communities.
Yeah.
And how there are certain things that have to happen and certain things that are flexible. And I try to use that when I write. And as you can tell, I talk a lot.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You're good with words, both in the written form and the spoken, which is always good.
Comes from being a professor for many years.
Oh, well, yeah. What did you teach?
I taught ancient history.
Okay.
I also taught, like I said, all the way through World War II.
Okay.
I did Western Civ, both halves of Western Civ. That was a tough class to do.
Really?
I mean, I always felt that just teaching Roman history in one semester was tough. But when you have to go from, like, the first city to the Middle Ages in one semester, you're just like, phew. It's, what am I actually teaching you anything at that point?
Yeah.
And then I also taught a class for a year and a half, which was basically, this is how you do history.
Okay.
And I taught my students in one semester everything I'd learned my first 4 years of college about being a historian. Because they would come into a history class and they would feel completely lost. I don't know what a primary source is. I don't know what a secondary source is. I don't know how to write an argument. I don't know how to deal with evidence. And I would take them from just reading the syllabus on the first day to a 10-page research paper in one semester. Wow. And I really liked that class, and the department I taught it with was the Student Academic Center. They really let me design that course the way that I wanted, and I think it worked really well in the end. And they continued to use my program even when I was done with school. So
very nice. So, I'll be honest, coming in here to talk to you, even before the convention, I hadn't heard of you. I'm sorry. So I'm coming into this very, very ignorant on who you are and the your work here. So I'm kind of at a loss for questions, to be honest with you, other than the basics. Hey, who are you and what do you write? So.
This convention. Yeah. Sometimes I'm a featured guest. This year I'm a featured guest again. I do a lot of panels. My next one at 4 is, it's called Geek Girls Unite.
Okay.
And this was something I started 6 years ago, I believe it was. When we really started talking more openly about gender issues and sexism and harassment at conventions. And this was kind of my response to it, which was just, let's start talking about it. And that spun into, now we focus on this particular topic. Last year we talked about women in movies, and this year we're looking at women in comics and graphic novels. And we just that lets us focus, deal with the positives and the negatives, and just be honest about it and have a safe place to do it. Because I'm a feminist. Sorry if that offends some people, but I am. And so those issues always interest me, and it turns out they interest a lot of other people too.
Oh yeah. I've in the few years that I've been doing conventions, because I've really only been doing conventions for 4 years. Seems like longer than that, but they're about that long. And if you look at programming at a lot of conventions, regardless of the theme, I guess, of the convention, whether it's comics or fantasy or gaming convention or something like that, you look at the programming, and you're starting to see more and more social-related topics come up on panels. Sometimes it's about feminism, sometimes it's LGBTQ, all sorts of things, and it's great that people are becoming comfortable enough to speak about those in such a public setting, and the conventions when they're planning their programming are willing to create that platform, that atmosphere that people can talk about those things.
Well, particularly because in science fiction and fantasy for decades now, they've been dealing with issues like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes in direct ways, sometimes in more obtuse ways. But you would have worlds where there were different forms of marriage and different forms of relationships, and we could read about them, but you didn't really want to talk about it in real life. The other community that I'm a big part of is the kink community. And so sometimes I do those conventions too. There are a lot of people in those communities who are geeks by sci-fi standards, and I knew for years there are a lot of people here who at night do things that are kinky. And I think it's important that we recognize that we share a lot of things, but we also need to share our knowledge to make sure that everyone's safe and everything's consensual, and we're all becoming the best people that we can be in the process and having fun doing it. Yeah. And so if I can do a little bit of that at conventions, I like to do it.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say, if you look more at my website and stuff and you have more questions, I'm happy to answer questions. I always tell people I know how to say no, and I will say no if I don't want to answer something, but maybe it's the teacher in me still. And I just love to talk, as you can tell.
Yeah. You have knowledge, you want to impart it on people. So that's great. So I guess on that same vein, how can people find you?
I have a website. You can just use my name, TammyJoe@cart.com, or you can type in thetammyjoe.com.
Okay. Yep. Are you anywhere else, or just the website? Use any other social medias?
That links to all my other social medias through there, because I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
You sound like me.
I'm still on, this is how old I am. I'm still on MySpace. Yeah, so, and I do have a blog called The Chocolate Cult. You just type in The Chocolate Cult, where we just talk about chocolate, which is why we have the chocolate here. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'm now writing a bi-weekly history blog for the Monroe County National Organization of Women chapter, where I just investigate one woman in history, or one man.
Okay.
And I'm just doing that by date. So the date that it's going to be published is the date I investigate and find someone related to that date and talk about their life and try to teach us a little bit more about the collective history of people you might not realize have made a big impact on the fight for equality. Thursday was my last one. I had to learn all about the first woman to become a lawyer in Indiana.
All right.
Not only was she the first woman, but she was the only woman lawyer for 29 years after she became a lawyer. So,
where can we find that?
It's on the Monroe County National Organization of Women blog.
Okay.
So, and there's supposed to be a link added to my website about it. I don't know if my webmaster has done that yet. But.
She looks knowingly like the webmaster's there.
He's far more knowledgeable about that sort of stuff than I am. I can say add this, but whether or not he has the time to do it is,
Yeah. I totally understand. All right. Well, anything else you would like to add?
No, I'm glad to know that there's another podcast out there by women looking at. Now, what do you look at exactly? You tell me.
What as far as
conventions? Yeah. What exactly? Because I know you were telling me all these different.
Yes, on our sign there.
Do you consider it general geekness that you're interested in, or?
Yeah, we're getting personal here. Well, when the podcast started, my personal frame of geekdom was a lot smaller. My window was a lot smaller. Since we've been doing the show for 3 years and going to conventions, it's definitely expanded. Before, when we started, I've been like, yeah, I'm a Disney Doctor Who fan, and kind of a Marvel fan. And since then, I'm a bigger Marvel fan than my husband is now, even though he's the one that introduced me to it. Starting to get into DC a little bit. I was a Disney fan, but I wasn't watching Once Upon a Time, and my co-host introduced me to that. So the television series there, The Librarians, which is a really great show. It's a great show. So it's just every now and then, so one of my co-hosts will discover something and be like, hey, here's this new show or this book series. And be like, okay, let me add it to the list. It's growing every single second of the day, and I'm never going to reach the bottom of it. So cosplay, that was not something I did when we started at all. So, and now I'm, cosplaying and judging cosplay contests and coordinating cosplay conventions. So it's crazy how, one little hobby, and I'm sure you could probably relate. You're like, oh, I got an idea for a book, and now you're here with however many books are sitting in front of us, along with other things that you're selling. It's like you probably had no idea when you started to write that first book that this was what it was to grow into.
Yeah, no, because I had always been writing as a child, but I did writing because I had this internal drive, like a muse, you could call it, that pushed me to write. But I was going to be a college professor. I was going to be a historian. And I kind of did that on the side, because like a story would nag at me, and I'd be like, I have to do this research project. No, you don't. You want to tell this story. So I had to find a way to balance it. And then when the economy just kind of collapsed in 2008, I got my PhD right at the end of 2007. There were literally, for 3 years, no jobs in my field. Yeah. And at that point, we said, well, I think I'd had at that point 4 books out. Yeah. And we said, okay, why don't you just do this full time? And now I have 12 books out. So, you have to go where life takes you.
Oh, yeah.
You have to find those opportunities and follow them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I totally get the finding new things. I mean, that's one of the great things about coming to a convention is that you learn about new things, you share things, and you find other people who are interested. Because growing up is kind of like, am I the only person, watching Doctor Who?
Yeah.
Is it just my mom and me and that's it?
Yeah.
Because that's really weird. No, it can't be.
Yeah.
And then you learn it's not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Very cool.
Well, thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Becky Margonaut, and I'm the con chair for InConJunction 2018.
Woo!
Yes, it's very exciting.
You look thrilled.
I'm really thrilled. Actually, I really am. I'm tired.
Yes.
It is, like we were saying earlier, right before the convention closes here. I kind of waited the last second because I am a procrastinator.
Yeah, well, no.
Yes.
It's fine. It's fine. I've been saying all day, like, Sundays at conventions kind of had this general, like, blanket of everyone needs a nap feeling about them.
Yes, nothing but naps.
Yes.
We participated in traditional Saturday night alcohol revelry, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Consuite staff and I were very, very toasted.
Hey, you've worked all year to get to this point.
And to drink our Zima.
Exactly. You gotta take a moment to kick back and not be like on, which is good.
And just sit there hoping, please no catastrophes, please no catastrophes, please no, I am too drunk to deal with catastrophes.
Yes. If my phone does not ring in the next 30 minutes, yay. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, okay, so you're going to be the con chair. Next year, I already talked to Joe about this year's con. So what can you tell us for next year, for 2018?
Well, next year we're going to have another fun fantasy type theme. When I originally got elected con chair, I wasn't going for a total fantasy theme, but things kind of fell into place. Next year we're hoping to be very Henson related and orientated.
Very cool.
I can't talk about author yet because my author hasn't signed a contract yet.
Oh.
I can't talk about my artist yet because my artist hasn't signed a contract yet. And to be fair, I can talk about my Toastmaster because while he hasn't signed a contract yet, I'll kill him if he doesn't do it. And I can talk about our musicians because while they haven't signed a contract yet, I know all of them. I run their fan club, so I'll kill them.
There you go.
But yeah, next year our Toastmaster is going to be. His name is Jason Banbury. He'll be here pretty much as Jareth from Labyrinth.
Nice.
He's a special, special child I love to pieces. He's in, let me think here. He's in at least 4 bands that I can think of off the top of my head. There might be a 5th one if I'm counting right. And one of them is a Labyrinth themed band called the Goblin King. that may or may not be performing. That's not our musicians of honor. That's not our music guests of honor.
Yeah.
However, his other band, Indiana's very own punk rock Star Wars band, the Yavin 4, will be our music guests of honor.
Nice.
They're good. They're loud. They're going to be a departure of what we've had for the last 3 or 4 years. I jokingly said that our theme is I bring the noise because I am loud. So why would my music not be loud?
That's going to be the unofficial tagline in really small print on the program.
Hashtag I bring the noise.
Yes.
Like the hashtags are supposed to be like InCon37, InCon38, hashtag I bring the noise. 38.com.
I'll have to remember that to use it for next year.
.com.
Yeah. Hashtag I bring the noise. InCon38. .com.
Important when you're recording to like smack your hands on things.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So, yeah, no, that's exciting. Henson, that's I don't have words, but I'm gesturing and making facial expressions that say I am very excited about this theme.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be really fun. My author has been involved in a lot of stuff very recently that's all Henson related. It's very exciting. And our artist, he isn't involved with that necessarily, but he's very fun. He's a local artist, and he's also involved in another local Indianapolis band that better perform. And
she's making a fist.
I shake my fist a lot in my life. I don't know if there's any follow-through that happens with this fist shake, but by gum, it's being shook. You hear that, people? You know who you are. But yeah, it'll be a good time.
Yes. Very nice. And I don't have a program in front of me, but I believe that the backside of the program has the teaser, I guess, and the dates.
It's got a big dark crystal thing. We're July 6th to 8th, 2018 next year. Not like I told Gaming with Scott. It's July 6th, 2000. It is not. It's not a time traveling convention. We already had that. But we're doing that. And fun fact about our program book, both the front and the back were done by the same super talented staff member. Our guy Kevin Harris. We had an unknown talent in our midst. He did my back cover in a day.
Nice.
Like, he sketched it one day, and then he had to go do other stuff. He had a very preliminary sketch he gave me, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty. And then, like a couple days later, he's like, hey, I'm sitting down to do it, and 2 hours later, I had a picture. And I was like, the heck? So, like, if you're in the Indianapolis area and you need some love, find Kevin Harris. He does art, and he is cool.
Nice.
We like Kevin.
That 2 hours, that's impressive. I did the coloring thing earlier and was coloring a picture in my coloring book and sat there for an hour, and I barely got halfway through the page.
Yeah,
so.
all I can figure is also, like, he did mine so fast because he has an intense love also of the subject matter. So I feel like, judging by the way he drew a lot of it, he had already done this many times before. And I guess it was helpful. It was just a frame. Really, all I had really wanted originally was the crystal cracking, because it was enough of a thing as Sean behind me. Okay, it's Roxy. But, no, you're not violent.
Magic head appears in the corner.
That was my roommate. Yeah. But like, all I wanted was the crystal cracking, the crystal cracking, and with a next year, the crystal cracks underneath it. Yeah. And he drew this crazy Skeksis and everything drawing, and I was like, well, I can't say no to that. That's beautiful. Yes, I'll take that. Yeah. And we managed to make it as generic looking as possible, so you can't pin them as certain characters. Yeah. So, There's
no copyright infringement here whatsoever.
We're poor. Yeah. We're a tiny fan one con. Don't sue me.
We live on volunteers.
We really do. Yeah. But yeah, conventions. Yay.
Okay, well, as the convention is ending literally around us. People are packing up. It's kind of sad, actually. It's almost over, tear. But so for next year, as far as registration and everything, can people go ahead and start doing all that, or will there be a lull?
They could have done it today while registration was still open till noon, but it was only open till noon. It was $30. I don't think you can do it quite right. But it'll be pretty soon. It'll roll over. Okay. I want to say possibly August or September, the webpage will be back up. We'll roll over and be like, hey, buy a ticket. And when it comes back online, I believe it is $35 for the first couple months. I think it's 35. It's not 35. It's 40. So it's cheap. Yeah. It's cheap as hay.
Yeah.
Hay
For
cheap.
a 3-day convention, which runs almost 24 hours for 3 solid days. That's a good bargain. So.
And if you come, we're a nice close knit community. We're a very family. We're not like family. I'm not saying we're family friendly, which we are.
Yes.
But we are a large family of like 700 people.
Yeah.
That all kind of know each other. And sometimes awkwardly avoid each other in the hallway when we're like, oh no, if I stop, oh no, I see the following 9 people, they're all going to stop me and we're going to talk for 2 hours and I'm going to miss my panel, oh no.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, hey guys, did you know it's 2 a.m. on Sunday? Uh-oh. I was supposed to do something, 4 somethings yesterday. Huh. How did we get in the pool?
Whoops.
Yep. I'm not, for the record, also the hotel keeps our pool open for us till 4 a.m. It closes usually at 1 or 2 a.m., but for InConJunction, they keep it open till 4 a.m. Not once this year have I even thought about going into the pool. I'm thinking afterwards, because I'm here tonight, and we have a meeting tomorrow, so whatever. Yeah. I'm thinking I'm going to finally get into that pool.
That sounds like a good plan.
It's going to be pretty exciting.
That sounds like a good plan.
And then someone will try to lure me in the hot tub, and something bad will happen, and my legs will explode. Well, maybe I won't go to the pool.
We'll just have to wait and see. I guess for all information, it's InConJunction.org.
Yes, we're at .org because we are a nonprofit organization in addition to a convention. Not like Starbase Indy, which is becoming a 501c3 so that they can really, really, really be nonprofit. We're a nonprofit, not crazy nonprofit.
Oh, okay.
We don't have to fill out all the forms.
Yeah.
It's
a nonprofit, less paperwork.
Yes, exactly. Yes. But yeah, InConJunction.org. And if you're interested in learning about Indianapolis or Central Indiana's sci-fi fantasy club, Circle of Janus, which is the thing that puts on InConJunction, there's a circular logo, which you'll probably be able to figure out because we're Circle of Janus, it's circular. Click on that and you can learn about the club too. We meet once a month except for July because we're putting on InConJunction. This is a really long Circle of Janus meeting right now. Usually they start at 7 p.m. on Saturday, end by 9. Ours, we went overtime a while ago.
Yes.
But we currently are meeting once a month, first Saturday of the month for the most part, at Valley Mills Christian Church at 5555 Kentucky Avenue on the southwest side of Indianapolis.
Cool.
It's a good time, and then all the information for the most part, usually, is there on the webpage too. Right now, I'm pretty sure it says we're not having an August meeting because we messed up. So August disappeared. So I'm sorry, guys. Next month does not exist.
Oops.
But yeah, come see my convention next year because it's going to be fun. And I'm going to start I will have Facebook Live posts starting with Starbase Indy.
Okay.
Announcing authors and artists and stuff like that. And I'm in the works of getting my cosplay guy and everything. We're going to go with someone new. It's going to be fun.
Sweet.
Except I love Muckshell, so she's still going to do it. She's going to be on my committee, so I can't let her run away because she's my favorite.
Yes.
Chris, you're also my favorite. Yeah, it was a good time.
All right. Yeah, all right. Awesome. Well, thank you. No go close out this convention.
Ceremonies, everybody.
Yay! InCon 37 in the books. Done. You have been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Any and all movies, books, games, and other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by their respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied.